everybody else.
Right.
No, it was, she did say that.
I did see that, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to continue item 9 to a future agenda.
Hey, guys, hold on. If we haven't heard from Sharon, I think we should pause for a second. I want to make sure she's on and
She was on.
Hello.
Hey, guys. Hold on. If we haven't heard from Sharon, I think we should pause for a second.
There's a delay.
Yeah.
She was on.
Hello.
No, she's here, but she's not talking into the mic.
I think she's trying to send out invites to people that may not have gotten them. No, she's here, but she's not.
In the notice that she sent us about the, and the invite, it says that this is for the agenda at the request of the applicant.
Sharon.
Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Why is it, can everyone please stop talking?
There's a delay for some reason.
What's happening is someone's mic is on, it shouldn't be.
So Sharon is trying to set up the YouTube. So if we could just pause for a minute.
All right, let's pause.
What's happening is someone's mic is on, it shouldn't be.
Okay, I'm here.
Sharon is trying to set up the YouTube. So if we could just pause for a minute. And there is a weird delay. I'm not sure what that's about.
Alex. Okay, I'm here.
YouTube, so if we could just pause for a minute.
Alex.
There is a weird delay. Not sure what that's.
Let me try muting everybody.
Alex, can you hear me?
Yes.
Alex.
Muting everybody.
Alex, can you hear me?
Yes.
It looks like it's coming from the county Sharon site, actually. So
Noise?
I'm unmuting people here.
Sharon has texted me just to let me know that something's going on and they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I've muted her, so the echo is gone.
Yeah.
Sharon has texted me just to let me know that something's going on.
Oh.
Echo is not gone.
No, it's because she came back on. Let me mute her again. Okay. Everybody here?
Here,
Okay.
Here.
I'm here, John Watson.
Oops.
John Sharp.
Let me mute her again. Okay.
I'm here.
Good. All right. Very good.
I'm here, John Watson.
John, Claire.
And there's an echo coming through, I think, the county.
It's coming from the county, Sharon. So if I mute you, it goes away. Okay. Shall we try it again? Tip, you there?
Yes. Alex, can we try again now? Darren, Alex?
Yeah, let me just confirm with Sharon that we can start.
Yeah, the echo comes from her.
Yeah, she said go ahead.
All right, so we are back
She'll
on.
just stay muted and I can be her go-between.
All right.
Thank you, Alex. So we are back on to the agenda status report, and John, you made the motion to continue number 9.
Yes, I did, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
Thank
Okay.
you,
Don, second.
John. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carry. Thank you. So now on to the minutes. Are we going to?
Sorry,
do the
hi.
minutes?
Oh, this is Willow Brown. I just wanted to say that item 4 also needs to be continued. The architect's having a baby and he won't be able to present it today, the Spiegel project.
Oh, excuse.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to continue item number 4, 732 Coyote Road to a future meeting.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carry. So
and
we
our-
are continuing.
And our best wishes to that family, please, Willow.
Absolutely.
I'll second that.
Oh, okay, never mind. So let's go on to the minutes of the August 20th, 2020. Mr. Watson, you have any comments?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman, thank you. On item C2, in the black type at the bottom, I'd like the second line to read approval on consent with the number, with the condition that and then strike the word height and material for the 6-foot-high CMU, and strike that shall be 6-foot-high CMU wall in replace to that.
Sorry, with a condition that,
That the CMU wall be 6 foot high.
What's the material on it, John? Is it plaster covered or not?
Yeah, I guess it's plaster. But this is it's way in the back of the property, but it's got both a electric generator and an air conditioning unit. And so,
So
is
plaster.
that clear, Alex, or do you need me to?
I just have with the condition that the CMU wall be 6 feet high,
Yes,
as shown on the drawings around the generator.
yes, please. Okay, moving on, please. Are you ready, Alex?
Yep.
Okay, item number 3, comment number 1. This is the project that Tom Moore brought before us. Odd that no landscape provision on north property line. Okay. And then consider comment number 2, consider shifting project further, and take out the word back, south, just to clarify that.
Consider shifting south, project further back.
South. Take out the word back and make it south. There were actually 2 driveway or 2 roads on that, and what's front, what's back, so. Okay, and then the last one is the last one in this item, number 5. Consider rotating proposed garage to provide more landscaping area. And then what I'd like to do is to add the following, and to shield garage doors from street.
If possible.
Well, it says consider.
Yeah, or consider, that's true.
Okay, item number 4, comment number 2, the word Alston is misspelled. On that same item, comment number 4 on the second line.
Oh, is it misspelled? Oh, There.
Is there E,
Yeah.
not an O? On comment number 4. And I want to ask the board about this because I don't remember this comment from anybody. The second sentence, explore ways, and what's written here, to soften landscaping. I don't remember us saying that, but I do remember us saying explore ways to reduce flattening of ground surface.
I agree with that, John. This is Dave.
So eliminate soften landscaping.
Yes, my memory is the same as yours.
Okay, thank you, David. Welcome on to the meeting.
Thanks.
Item number 5, comment number 2, I think we can simplify this greatly by saying explore alternative roof colors, strike the word to white, that are less reflective, period. Item number 8, comment number 2. And then what I'd like to do is remove and then take out lights referenced as E2. And I'd like to have it say remove the 6 and then in parentheses or in quotes E2 unquote along the southern boundary lights, period. Strike
Remove,
the 6 E2 lights along the southern boundary.
Those were the ones in the olive trees, right?
Right at the front door, yeah, at the
Yeah.
driveway, yeah. But the wording of this is just very, I don't know, it's not as simple as it could be, and I tend to believe simpler is better. Okay, number 4, I hope I can get this right. Include planting on, and then I want to strike the remainder of that line. Include planting on street side of south and east perimeter wall. And then on the next line, to provide a better visual buffer from the road.
Okay, include planting on outside of wall.
this is number 4.
Yeah.
Along-
Include
I'd like it to
plantings.
re- What I'd like it to read is include planting on street side of south and east perimeter wall to provide a better visual buffer from the street.
That's what we said.
Yep. And then after that, step wall back to be pushed up closer to new trees. Whatever that sentence means, I'd like to strike it and replace it with step wall into property as needed. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Nothing from me.
Nothing, Dave.
Mr. Chairman, I will move for approval of the minutes of August 20th as amended.
I'll second that.
Gar-
Second by
Dave Mendro.
Dave Mandrew. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting carried. Thank you. Now we are on to the Montecito consent agenda, and we have 2 items today. C1 at 1636 Moore Road, and this item is here for final approval on consent.
Mr. Chairman, because there were some issues about that I wanted to be able to see the screen, and so far I haven't figured out how to do that. I asked Bill Wolf to also join Claire and I. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that all 3 of us were concerned about the number of lights, site lighting lights, and asked the applicant to go back and reconsider and reduce the number of lights, in particular, taking them out of the trees.
Correct. I concur.
Yes, me too.
So what I'd like to do is to continue item C1 to a future agenda with the applicant to reduce the number of site lights significantly and eliminate as many tree hung lights as possible.
Second by,
I'll second that.
and that kind of a motion. Oh, that's
That was by Watson. I made that motion.
all right. Can, all
Say that again, Kip. All those in favor?
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Who
Mr.
second-
Chairman,
Who seconded that?
Claire,
Claire.
And how many people are on right now?
Everyone except Sam May first, I believe.
Sam's on now.
No,
too.
I'm on now. I've just started my camera on. Hi,
Okay,
everyone.
so
So, we are all.
everyone's here.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
I have
also-
with the applicant to reduce the number of site lights as necessary.
no, it's significantly reduce the number of sitelights and to eliminate all tree hung lights,
As many as possible.
as many as possible.
Yeah,
Right.
not all, but many of them.
Right.
Okay, so we are on to item C2.
Just before we do that, I want to report that the architectural portion of that was done very well. We're just down to site lighting here. Item
Thank
C2, I believe I speak for the other two people that reviewed this, that we all thought that this was a very, very fine project and recommend approval.
Yes, I concur.
And Claire, would you like to second that?
I'll
Bill,
second. I'll second it.
Okay,
Yeah,
someone
muted.
muted, mute Claire, but, all right, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
And Alex, I've been noting that you show who attends the consent calendar. In this case, it was John Watson, Bill Wolf, and Claire Gottstanker.
All right, so we are on to Amber members' informational briefings. Anything to read from any board members?
Nothing from me.
No, I was
No.
just hanging out at Cossack Cottage Hospital. Nothing to report.
Well, safe and sound.
Yes,
Good.
And Claire said that she'll be off toward the end of the meeting, which probably be fine. We have quorum. And I will need to probably step out from 1:45 until 2:30, so Bill will be taking over during that time. Other than that, I think let's move on to staff 8. Alex,
I don't really have anything.
What
The,
happened at the joint
Olive,
meeting?
Olive Mill, so the city planning commission approved the project within their jurisdiction. The county or the Montecito Planning Commission did not complete their review, and so it's been continued to the next Montecito Planning Commission hearing for further comment and deliberation.
do we know when that is, Alex?
It's their next regularly scheduled meeting, so it's September 16th.
Thank you.
that's it, Alex.
Yep.
Okay. So now we're on to the standard agenda. Item number 1, 616 Hot Springs Road. Is the applicant online?
Good afternoon, Board, Chair. This is Jeff April with Anna Kappa Architecture.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. And this item here is for conceptual review. It's a brand new project. And approximately 4,050 square feet with a carport of 599 square feet. And office storage building approximately 300 gross square feet. Jeff, I believe this was a pending project before, or is this a brand new project?
You are correct. This project or this parcel and this client had previously designed and permitted a single family residence at this location. And we are here today to show you a redesign of that home. We were not the original architect. That has a significant reduction in square footage, mass bulk and scale, and revision to exterior materials.
So is the home under construction now?
There is no home under construction, but the site is level.
Great. You presentation to 5 minutes.
Yes, I can. Thank you, Tip.
Thank you.
Good board.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Yours.
apologies. As mentioned, we are here for 616 Hot Springs, which was previously designed and permitted as a single-family residence. At this time, the client is redesigning the residence to reduce the overall project scope. We're here for concept design and would like to come back for preliminary approval and final approval should the board be amenable to what they see. The previous design was a 2-story residence with a gross square footage of 5,350 square feet and an ADU with a gross square footage of 1,130 square feet with extensive hardscape on both the north and south side of the residence with an exterior material palette of stucco and stone with flat roofs with flat soffits and cantilevers. Our proposed, you can stay here for the site plan, that's perfect. Our proposed design is an overall reduction in square footage, mass bulk and scale, and a change in materials. Our main house is 4,050 gross square feet with an approximately 600 square foot carport and an approximately 300 gross square foot office and storage. The overall reduction in square footage of the project is 1,526 square feet. Plus, we've eliminated the ADU component, the entire second floor, and we have made significant strides to reduce hardscape on both the north and south sides of the home. Overall, our exterior materials are the same the same stone that was previously approved, which I will speak about when we look at the elevations, mixed with naturally weathering heartwood cedar and roof forms that have a small 1 to 12 slope on them with paired rafter tails. If you go back to the site plan, which is 2 sheets up, the orientation of the home is on a flag lot and it is not visible from any public right of way. The previous, we have rotated the home to the southeast by about 10 degrees from the previous orientation of the previous home, which was a little bit more in line with the property line you can see on the survey. Compared to the previous, the main living area is central to the site with the master suite to the east and a guest wing to the west. An office bounds the southern portion of the guest wing, shields a pickleball court on the western portion of the property from the main living area. That pickleball court and the driveway were previously approved design items from the previous design that have remain in place. Pardon me while I shut my webcam off. My apologies, I just want to preserve bandwidth. Lastly, there's a carport north of the pickleball court for 2 vehicles with storage adjacent to it. We're proposing extensive landscaping along the residence with an intention to keep the hardscape away from the house except where necessary and provide a landscape to basically building edge. The driveway remains the same as previously permitted for the project and approved by Montecito fire planning staff and building and safety staff. If you go to the floor plan down 1 sheet, as mentioned, the main living area is central with a master suite to the east, guest wing to the west. The approach to the home is from the north, centered on the main living space. We've provided an outdoor dining and outdoor lounge areas south of the main living space There is no structural pergola over these spaces. We are working with a landscape architect that has been retained for the project, Rana out of Carmel, who has done extensive work at the Santa Barbara Botanical Gardens to provide a tree selection to provide shade for both of those spaces. Below, at the lower portion of the project down here, there's a grade change of 36 inches to get to the pool area. And then you can see here the guest wing bounds the western portion of the site with a pickleball court and garden and some hardscape behind. If you go next page to the exterior elevations, we are proposing a material palette of naturally weathering cedar, vertically oriented, 1x6 with tight joints. And Texas limestone and Palermo stone veneer, which is the exact stone material previously approved for this project. The wood siding is located on the bedroom wings, so the east and west elevations. And the stone veneer is meant to be the central volume for both the main living space and the office. We have provided roof overhangs with paired rafter tails at all locations. Locations that face east and west will have an approximately 3.5 foot overhang, while locations on the south off the main living space will have a 10-foot extension. There are no exterior wall sconces proposed at this time, with overhead lighting in the soffits, or I should say minimal overhead lighting in the soffits, just for lighting that's needed at those exterior glazing locations for passing through the threshold. The overall building height at the tallest point is 13'6", well below the 35-foot height limit. And you can see we've staggered the heights of the buildings to have the main living space have a 12'6" clear ceiling with a 13'6" overall height, and the two guest wings, or the private wings, have a lower plate height over there to create some staggering in the roof. Thank you for your time. We look forward to hearing your comments and seeing you at our next hearing.
Thank you, Jeff. Are you done with your presentation?
I am completed. Thank you.
And quickly, what is the FAR now? Do you know?
The FAR now, it should be on the, yep, right here. Is it
Right.
0?
Okay,
That's
good. So
60?
66.
Oh, 56, okay.
66. So let's go back to the board for questions. John, you'd like to go first?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the conceptual grading, on the pretty picture of the landscape, you show a lawn in the lower right-hand corner. But when I look at the topo, I see a fairly significant amount of grade change in that same location. Can you explain to me how you're going to get that lawn in, what the implications for retaining walls and grading and things like that, please?
Yes, absolutely. This survey, if you go back up one to the survey, this survey is the original survey for the property that was done prior to the site grading that you can see at the existing site photos. So the previous grading plan effectively brought the pad out to the south a little bit closer. And so we feel that on the existing current condition, which is being updated this week in survey form, can accommodate the lawn that is down in this region. We will, of course, fine tune it. The lawn doesn't have to be completely flat, but we will be working with Rana to make sure that the existing condition can provide some sort of area in which a badminton court could be set up.
Well,
Thank you.
it seems, okay.
John, are you done?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Claire?
I think addressing that, if you go to sheet 7, isn't that, which is that one, shows that there is that a small retaining wall or something that, but above the pool?
That is correct. Right
Yeah, and
here
you
is a
can see,
garden
yeah, 'cause the
wall.
pool obviously is flat, and then so what you're saying is that this, in your landscape plan, just so I'm clear, that there will be some further grading because there's not going to be room between the pool and this slope, so something is going to happen there. Is that correct?
Yes, there
Okay.
will be minor grading to achieve the level change between the pool and the upper lawn. And as
Right.
part of that grading exercise, we feel that the area that you see in red right there, those 2 red boxes, would suffice as the lawn depicted on the conceptual site plan. And again, it can have a small slope to it that's very gradual, but I do not think we will be getting all the way down here that our conceptual landscape plan shows. We do need to work with our civil engineer and our landscape architect to further, to explore the feasibility of that area.
Got it. And then my other question was, I know there's raptor tails on the roof, but what is on your plans, you talk about the rat tail, but you don't talk about the material and color of the roof.
My apologies for that. The roof will be a metal standing seam roof, and the seam, because it is a low pitch, will be approximately 1.5 inches tall. And I think we would like to do a 16-inch on center seam. And the door and window package is proposed to be a bronze, not like Fleetwood bronze that's black, like a genuine warm, dark brown. So we would like the roof to be that rich, warm, dark brown color as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Dave, any questions?
Dave, you're muted.
Don?
Yes, you mentioned, I believe, that the carport has not been changed from the original plan. Is that correct?
The location of the carport has adjusted very slightly to pull it farther back from the turnaround in the driveway, but the design and the materials of the carport have changed. They are now wood with the same roof, standing seam metal roof. I understand that it's depicted as flat, but it's a very subtle 1 in 12 slope that will be in character with the main house.
I'm mostly referring to the distance between the carport wall and the property line.
So the carport will be placed on the setback, which this is a drafting error right here. We will not be encroaching into the side yard setback for any carport reasons or structure at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Don. Sam?
Yeah, let's pick up on that same property line. Is the pickleball hard court play court also encroaching? Is it in that setback area? It shows on the
So
conceptual plan.
the hard portion of the court is the inner rectangle, and the outside border is effectively a lawn that is runoff. So it's in the exact same location as the previous project. So if we need to adjust it slightly to have the hard portion, the hard surface within that setback, we can absolutely accommodate that. But the lawn surrounding it or the turf surrounding it for the runoff is in that setback there.
I would ask Alex, is that a condition that a hard court play court like that be inside the setback? Alex?
There, I have to look at the language, but yeah, I believe there's allowances for hard surfaces like that to be within front or within side and rear setbacks, not necessarily front setbacks, but
So thank you, Alex. The continuation of that, you're going to have fencing around the court and around the site. Can you describe how your privacy works with your fencing? You know, your landscape plan shows extensive greenery. Is most of that in place, or will your landscape plan be creating
A
privacy?
significant
space?
amount. My apologies for interrupting. A significant amount of the site is landscaped already with hedges on the south property line due to an easement for lower neighbor access, and a lot of oaks along the eastern, western, and northern property line. In terms of fencing, we will be improving upon the secure perimeter, but we haven't yet identified the exact material or the extents of a fence, but it would be in line with something that is wood, weathering, and has a robust amount of landscape in front of it to shield it from the actual property. And the pickleball court, it's our intention to not have a fence around the pickleball court. There's no requirement for it to have a fence around it. So it would just be a flat court with a net in the middle.
Thanks. One more question. Have you thought about your pool equipment area? Where's
Yes,
that?
we have. We would like to be placing the pool equipment. There's some that can be placed in the storage that is behind the office as part of the sort of lower pool cabana area. We can do filters, pumps, and a heater in there, which is, for instance, right down here enclosed. And then anything that needs to be exterior accessed, there is an idea working with Giffen and Crane to have it somewhere in the carport area here.
Whoa.
Okay, and then next time we'll see the new topo and how the grading works, correct?
You are correct.
Okay, thank you, Tip.
Thank you, Sam. Dave, are you back online?
I am sorry for the technical difficulty there. I don't have any more questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, so
I
with
do have
that-
some questions.
oh, Bill.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bill.
That's all right. I wanted to ask, is the entry gate going to stay as it is then? Are they changing color? Is it just going to be?
The entry gate is going to be the gate that is currently approved by the previous project. I believe it's a cleaned up version of that. It's a I think Leela from our team might recall better than I, but it's either a stone veneer gate with a flat top gate, or it's a stucco gate. It is not
It's stone veneer.
stone veneer. It is.
Containers go away then.
Yes.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And any other changes to the driveway or any of that front entrance is pretty much going to stay. You're just changing the houses.
That is correct. Stone veneer to match the residence. The gate will probably be a little less designed like that and a little bit more mute, probably wood.
Yeah. Stone veneer with wood slats as a gate.
Yes.
And then a last question on the carport here, just to clarify. So is that going to be a parapet up with this sort of floating fascia in between? It's a little different than your house roof concept. So maybe you can explain that a little better. What are you doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. We were trying to bring the cedar siding kind of up to the top of plate and have a small copper flashing up there. And then the span that is actually the roof would be, this would end up being a small fascia of the same roof color and material that in plan view, if we had our exterior wall right there, our roof would end up doing that and then there'd be another exterior wall right there. So this wall would wrap with wood and you'd see a metal fascia right there. So
Yeah.
yes, it's almost like the roof is being captured by the vertical walls of the carport.
Got it. Okay. All right, that was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So now we are going to open public comment for item number 1, and I believe we have a letter. Do you see that, Bill? Here
I
we
did.
go.
Brought it up. Here it is.
Okay, please from the neighbor at 6:15 and have no objection to the project. Great. And Alex, I don't think we have anyone in the audience. So with that, I'm going
So just so you know, I believe Sharon is back.
Sharon?
It's not showing, Alex.
It's not?
Yeah, she's open there.
Sharon just made that. That's the only thing we have. So we are going to close the comments and back to the board, and this item here is for conceptual review. So John, you'd like to go first?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a very nice project. From my point of view, I have no comments about the architecture except just keep going. It looks like you're doing a great job there. I am somewhat concerned about the lawn area in the southeast corner. And I'm also concerned about the closeness of the pickle court to the neighbor, and both visual as well as auditory shielding. And I'm hoping that the applicant can study that a little bit more to try to create as much privacy to the neighbor as possible. And that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, John. Dave?
I think it's a very nice design. The single story, the way it's sited, really presents minimal impacts to the neighbors. So I'm very supportive of the project. I would ask that they resolve some of the minor encroachment issues that I've already brought up, and also to document the existing screening and any new screening to infill that may be needed. But it's hard to tell what's existing right now. But in the next round, be sure to show all that screening to the neighbors so we can see that. Other than that, I think it's a very nice project.
Thank you, Dave. Don?
Yes, I agree. I think the home is very inobtrusive and very appropriate for the area. My only concern is the proximity of the carport to the neighboring property and the lack of any sound control between the carport and the pickleball court with the neighbors. And I would like to consider maybe a solid wall or something to buffer that noise from going to the neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Sam?
Yeah, it'd be nice to see the footprint or site plan is on the plan for that neighbor that's close to the encroachment issues we've been talking about. So maybe next time bring kind of the condition of what that affects on their property. I too like the layout and the reduction of how the automobile comes onto the property, and there's a lot of good area for landscape. I'd like the next version to show again the screening, as I think Dave mentioned. But overall, I think the simple, bold, clean nature of this layout is quite well done. So just clean up some of the encroachment thinking and whether or not the property is screened from the neighbors. And looks like a good project to move along.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Claire?
Well, I would agree with all of the comments, but except that somebody asked about having the neighbor's house on the site plan, but it's actually, it is on the site plan. You can see it. The neighbor's house is in the middle of the lot, so that this pickleboard, look, yeah, right there. See it? And that between that neighbor's house, we see in the landscape plan, but we actually also can see now from Google Earth that there are some very large trees on the project that actually are going to screen the pickle court. So that's just my comment. Everything else, I think it looks great. Yeah.
Thank you, Claire and Bill.
Yeah, I agree with what I'm hearing from the other board members. I think the architecture is great. I would just ask the applicant maybe to come back and give us a site section of that area where the lawn is that John's asking about. I too agree with Don in terms of maybe pulling the pickleball court a little bit over. Again, more for sound. I think the screening is thick and looks good based on the aerial there. But I think that, there's still sound that could transfer through there. So maybe a little bit of distance or pulling that back or rotating it or something might be a way to achieve that. Otherwise, it looks real good. I can support where you're going right now.
Thank you. So it seems like a much improved project, and the board can support the project, and I believe we can have you back to the full board. I assume you have a planner. Is that right? Yeah. Do we have a planner yet, Jeff?
Says no planner assigned here.
For concept,
so-
no planner has been assigned yet. Our LUP
so-
application. Pardon.
So you
Sorry.
need to go through with the planning approval, and then when you're ready, you can come back to the full board. I think we can do this for both preliminary and final approval, if you, assuming you have all the drawings, required drawings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, board. Thank you so much, chair. Really appreciate
you.
your comments and time today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bill,
Yes.
can you
Take
take over item number 2?
Yes.
I will
Okay.
step out. I'll be back on item number 3.
Okay. Item number 2, 691 Oak Grove Drive. Let's see here. Okay, is the applicant on line here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Scott, go ahead. I'm going to bring up your drawings.
All right.
Your presentation. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Thanks for letting us present today. We have with us, we have myself, Scott Branch, the architect, Aaron Carroll, the landscape architect, and I believe the owners are online as well. So essentially, this is the owners. The owner, Chris Hill, grew up in this house as a little kid. So this was his parents' home, and it's on Oak Grove Drive, and it's now his house, and he and his wife, Barbara's house, and they want to do some modest improvements to it. So so they've enlisted myself and Aaron Carroll, who Aaron's landscape and hardscape stuff is really incredible. You'll like that when you see it. But with regards to the house, yeah, here's the existing house. It had an interesting style, sort of ranch, little mid-century modern, and what we're proposing to do is mostly an interior remodel. Can you go back to the site plan for a second, Bill? So the site slopes from the street up to the rear of the property, and the slope is not significant, but somewhat dramatic from the back of the house going up to that existing barn. And by the way, when he grew up as a kid, that actually was a barn with horses in it and stuff. Yeah, here, let's look at the pictures real quick. So there it is from the street. And as you scroll down, you'll see a couple of shots of the front. Had a kind of an interesting sort of weird trellis thing on the front as an entry statement. And then as you start to go to the back, you'll see the back of the house. You're not really able to see the south side of the house per se. I mean the west side, because there's this fence around it. But that's going to be going away, and you'll see in Aaron's landscape plans. But if you keep going, then you'll see the existing back of the house. Now you can see we're kind of mid back of the site, looking at the house, and we're looking down on it. So that's going to play into the design that we did to the rear of the house. So, and then up on above that, you'll see the existing barn. If you keep scrolling, the existing barn is an old. Literally, it was a barn. It's board on board construction. And it's currently where there's literally kind of nothing in it right now, but they have a little Polaris that they can drive around on site, and that's where that's stored. In fact, you can see in the photo. And we've spoken with, we've been consulting with Ian Cronshaw from Allen Associates regarding what we're going to do, because the northwest corner of this property is in the flood plain. And so we're going to have to, we're subject to the rules, of the AFE and all that stuff with regards to budget and all that stuff. So originally that barn was going to be, we were thinking of doing an ADU back there, but we can't because that finished floor would have to come up because remodeling it exceeds the 50% cost threshold. But we are able to do what we want to do to the existing house. The budget has worked for what we're doing for that. So, so that's kind of the overview. So what we wanted to do is come in. Currently, the photos you saw, that rear of the house, if you stop right there, Bill, that north elevation, go back one sheet to the existing, that rear elevation, you can see that line of glass along the back. Well, because of the slope of the site, when you walk in the front door and you see that great wall of glass in the back, all you see is basically the foot of the hillside right outside that window. So we wanted to pop up and get some view back there. So essentially, in looking at the construction there, if you go to that roof plan right there, Bill, the construction is such that we think we can take the existing rafters. The existing roof is a series of 4x12 rafters with 2x6 TNG spanning the rafters. They're about 4 to 5 feet apart, something like that. And we can actually take these rafters and reuse them and bump them up so that on the rear elevation, we get some glass above the back doors. And that way, when you come in, you'll be able to look up the hillside a little bit more, and it'll be a little bit more dramatic. Essentially, the wall of glass along the back there is pretty much existing. We've just kind of made stuff work within that. And then the rest of the plan is we've done some remodel work to it on the interior. We've also added, gotten rid of, at the front entry, we got rid of that. It was kind of a flat trellis that was a little bit oversized and weird, to be honest. So we got rid of that and created more of a formal entry right there. That feels a little bit more appropriate to the beamwork of the house. The existing roof is that old kind of tin fake Spanish roof, those fake Spanish tiles out of tin. And so we've gotten rid of that, and we're proposing a standing seam metal roof. As far as exterior changes, really the only thing is actually, I had our planner. I'm noticing something right now. We had uploaded another set of plans to after we had submitted, because I'm noticing something on this elevation we've changed. Do you have an updated set of plans, Bill, or no?
No.
When were those submitted?
We emailed those to Eric, it was last week before, something like that.
Well, you're here for conceptual review?
Yeah.
too?
Yeah, I think we
I
can.
think we're okay. Well,
Yeah.
unless it's something dramatic, I think we can probably work with what you have. Is it significant difference than what you show here?
Well, to me it is.
Well,
Well, I
okay.
understand.
I know. it
But
might-
no, but I can talk you through it. So essentially, there are very little changes on the exterior. We've changed the color of the house, and we've changed the roof material and that front entry. Most of the windows are the same size windows and in the same locations. However, all the windows that you're looking at for the most part there had jalousie windows beneath them. If you look at the existing elevations. And so we got rid of those and just did standard windows in the existing openings. Yeah, zoom into that south elevation there. You can see the jalousies there. So we got rid of those, and they're just standard windows. We've added a couple of little windows where we've had to, like for example, on that south elevation to the left of that sort of 5x5 window left of the entry, there's a small window to the bathroom. We've added a window to the left of that, which is in the master bath. So a couple of little windows added for purposes of the elevations. Now, what I was going to tell you about the west elevation, if you look at that west elevation, those two little standout windows that don't work, the one on the right, the smaller one, that's gone. The one on the left has increased in width by about 3 inches, and the transom above has reduced on either side by about 3 inches. So now that lines up. And that window assembly is in the toilet room of the master bath if you were to look at the floor plan. So so we feel that kind of makes a little bit more sense. So from as far as you know, MBAR is concerned, that's kind of the extent of the exterior changes to the main house. The rest of it is an interior remodel to kind of freshen it up, open it up, make all the spaces work better. It's still the same bedroom count. We just kind of rearrange the pieces and stuff. The barn we're turning into a workshop, and the floor plan is changing very little. All we're really doing is adding a kind of a garage door so that they can park that Polaris instead of in the patio that's currently on the front of the thing, and sticks out from the roof. We're actually giving it that's where it parks right now. So now it's going to park over on the side where the stable was, which currently just has a dirt floor. So we just need to pour a slab in there, and they can back that Polaris in there. And we thought we'd do some kind of a carriage garage door right there. And then where there are existing doors, you know, going into the thing, we'll change that to some French doors. The windows are old jalousie windows in there. So they don't currently work very well. So we're now, you know, putting in real windows and that kind of thing. And like I said, we had Ian Cronshaw on board, you know, as we were trying to figure out the design of this thing, and he thinks he can reuse. There's enough of that with what we're doing. There's enough of that board on board to kind of reuse that material and make it work on that workshop. So very little new material he thinks will be needed, which helps the budget, and you know, it's kind of a good recycling way to do it. So that's and again the workshop will have the color will match the house, even though it's board on board, but the roof will become standing seam to match the house. The main house is currently a very dark beamwork, and so we're gonna kind of, you know, repaint the. If you go to the elevations of the main house, you know, we'll be repainting the beamwork there to a lighter color to help kind of lighten that, and those beams flow through to the interior of the house, so that'll help lighten it up on the interior. the entire ceiling inside the house and between those beams is a nice tongue and groove. So it'll be a nice look. That way you'll have the natural color of the wood and just a slightly darker tone to the beams. Like I said, I've got Aaron Carroll online as well. I'll let him take over and talk about this this hardscape landscape plan that he did, and then afterwards we'll be available for any questions or comments you guys might have.
Thank you, Scott. Go ahead, Aaron.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think if you want to scroll down to the next sheet, we can start there, which is the start with the hardscape. The existing concrete driveway is in pretty good shape, so that's going to remain unaltered. We are going to add some nice stone walls with some boulders out in front of Oak Grove to give a sense of entry, and also a staircase made of stone to access the front door from the street. We've got some tile stepping stones in the front and the back. We're looking at a few different options for that, maybe basalt or a wood textured concrete tile. And we've got a new driveway gate on the east side yard and trash storage as well over there. On the rear of the property, we're bumping out the patio quite a bit larger than what it is currently to give usable space for the master bedroom living. So you really have that inside outside feel to the backyard. Another stone wall retaining, that's about a 4-foot retaining wall there. And then steps on up to the deck, which is going to be raised above existing grade to minimize the impact to that large specimen oak tree to the north of the deck there. There's a sofa, fire pit on the deck, barbecue, and where the existing concrete driveway ends, we're going to do a gravel driveway over to the workshop. If you want to go back up to the planting plan, I can kind of walk you through that. We've got an existing, some large existing oaks along Oak Grove Drive that are going to remain on the west front side yard. There's a tipu tree as well that will remain. We're adding some Japanese maples in the front. It's kind of a smaller scale tree. And then there's vegetable beds on the west side yard. There's a few new oak trees we're planting, and those are to offset any potential impacts to the existing oak trees. So there's six new oak trees we'll be planting in the rear yard. The plant palettes, a lot of grasses, succulents, kind of that contemporary ranch vibe is what we're going for. Mostly drought tolerant, with the exception of some edible plantings, some citrus trees, avocados, things like that. And then and we're doing a new screen hedge along the north and west side yard, and that will be a native Catalina cherry hedge.
Great, thank you.
And then the rear of the property is just a lot of oak trees, so we're just going to leave that unlandscaped. Just let the oaks kind of be themselves back by the workshop.
Okay, is that your presentation?
Yeah, if there's any questions, please let me know.
Okay. Yeah. So Don, any questions?
Yes, I have a couple. Have you been to the fire department yet? If it needs to go to them?
I have not.
Okay. Second one is, what is that driveway off to the north of the workshop? That driveway right there. We seem to have a lot of not paving, but certainly a lot of car access throughout the entire site. And that seems like a strange shape up there, and just curious as to what that's for.
We just like the flexibility of being able to park a truck back there. It's outside the side yard setback.
Right.
Is it
Okay.
existing? Is it existing?
It is not existing now.
Okay.
Don, did you get all your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Claire, questions?
Yes, I'd like to know what the material is for the new driveway gate.
Mm-hmm.
You
That's going to
didn't
be,
say what it was. You just said it is a new gate.
yeah, that's going to be a steel gate, and the owner is, we're looking at sort of a decorative wave pattern to it. We haven't detailed it yet, but that's kind of the
Okay.
direction we're going. And it's only going to be about 5 feet, 6 feet high.
Oh, okay. So it's so it's consistent with the house then. Then the other question, Aaron, that I had, and it's nice to hear you again,
Likewise.
is the material that you're using for these new stone walls. Are they rubble walls? What's your idea with those?
Yeah, rubble walls with, we've got plenty of boulders on site to work with.
Okay. Yes, we do in Montecito, don't we? Okay, then, oh, the other question is that we talked about the standing seam. This probably is more for the architect, the standing seam roof. What color?
It's in fact, if you scroll down to the material schedule there, I believe it's wait, go up, it's on the elevation. Right there where it says material schedule. It's a cool zinc gray. I think it's, yeah, cool zinc gray by AEP Span.
Okay, so yeah, the span, and when you say a cool zinc gray, is that the one that has very little reflectivity on it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, color garage, nice. I like the barn, by the way. That's it. Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Sam, questions?
Yeah, no additional questions, Bill.
Okay, thank you. Dave, any questions?
Yes, thanks, Bill. You mentioned that you're planting new oaks to mitigate the impact to existing. Could you tell us which oak trees you're impacting with your proposed remodel?
Yeah, it's the oak tree.
This
Well,
one.
it's sort of a double trunk oak that's just to the north of that deck. You can see those two trunks right in the middle of the plan, really.
Right here, yeah.
Yeah, those two.
Okay.
And it's potential impact, not necessarily that we're impacting them for sure. It was a recommendation of Bill Spiewak, our arborist.
Okay. So you have, that was going to be my next question. You have consulted with Bill on what you're doing,
Correct.
and you'll provide his recommendations.
Yeah, and that's why that whole deck's going to be on piers, instead of on slab. We're going to impact the ground plane as little as possible around those oak trees.
Great. That answers my questions. Thanks.
Okay. All right, I think I've got all the questions from the board. Are there?
Hey, Bill,
Okay.
can I throw in a clarification?
John, sorry, John. Question.
One question on the landscape plan, there's a new pullout on Oak Grove Road just immediately next to the main entrance. Can you explain that, the function of that, please? And then the need for it to the right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be occasional guest parking.
So you don't think you have enough guest parking on the site?
Well, the idea with that gate on the side yard is it's normally closed. It's not really going to be an automatic gate. I mean, we do have.
I'm talking about Bill, to the right, to the right.
It's here. It's right out, it's outside of the wall,
here.
Bill.
It's
But
right
yeah,
there.
right on Oak Grove.
Got it.
Back up. What's the function of that?
Number 3 there.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, that's occasional guest parking.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add a clarification, Bill?
Yeah, go ahead.
That turnout in the rear of the property, that little bit of drive that you're wondering about,
Yeah,
that is, they have a trailer, a little flat trailer. It's probably, 8 feet wide and about 10 feet long and about 3 feet high, something like that. It's a trailer for hauling debris and whatever. But the idea was kind of that trailer would be parked over there. If you guys visited the site, it's currently in the front part of the driveway where you were just talking about potential guest parking.
got it. Okay. I had a question. The driveway that you show here, number 5, that's existing, is that right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, all right. That was all the questions I had. Let's open it up to public comment. Do we have anybody in the audience that has any, wants to speak against it, speak for or against this project? And I don't see any letters here either. Sharon, we don't have any letters. I don't see one anyway, or any. So with that being said, no comments from anyone else. We'll go to comments from the board. Let's start with John.
Mr. Chairman, I'm generally positive towards this project. I must admit, I have a hard time feeling comfortable with adding an additional pullout right at a relatively wide entrance already. One of the things that I've been trying to do in my tenure is to minimize curb cuts and increase parking on the streets and things. So with the exception of feeling that that's unnecessary and probably from an aesthetic point unwise, I think the rest of the project is very nice and I'm supportive of it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, John. Sam, comments?
Yeah, I think this is a very nice upgrade throughout the architecture, certainly with opening up the back window views and expanding the outdoor living space, indoor, outdoor, upgrading the front entrance and organizing the landscaping in the first impression of the house. I really like the little barn. So I think the integration of both architecture and landscape architecture is very well done. One quick question, Aaron, that small wall at that parking area, is it about a 3 foot or 4 foot high wall? Is it any higher than that?
No, it's 52, 48. It's about 3.5 feet.
And the material would be asphalt, or would it be matching your driveway?
The material is gravel.
Just be gravel and softened, and your planting would soften that wall a little bit, so it'd appear to have some landscaping close to that area.
We'd have landscaping on 3 sides of it.
Okay.
And you see these kind of parking areas along Oak Grove Drive in some area, along the street.
Yeah, I'm in general very favorable of the whole presentation. Thank you, Bill.
All right, thank you, Sam. Claire?
I agree with the comments, and I kind of disagree with Mr. Watson because Oak Grove Drive is a pretty narrow road, and lots of people park outside of their property line, and I think this applicant is accounted for that. It just kind of is the way it is on Oak Grove Drive because there isn't. There's just not enough room for things. And I think the way the landscape architect has addressed this, once it gets landscaping on either side of it, is kind of what everybody does. There's almost other people do exactly the same thing on Oak Grove Drive. So, you know, I think that for me, I think it's fine. I love the little barn at the back. And I really, I want to acknowledge the owners for this remodel, rehab, of keeping it with inside the intention of what was built there original, you know, and congratulations that you inherited, you know, kind of a little jewel, you know, and are treating it appropriately rather than taking it down and building something else. You know, so, that's it.
All right, thank you, Claire. Don, comments?
Thank you. I certainly agree with the comments that have gone before me here. And again, would encourage the owner to, or the applicant to go before the fire department to justify that distance and so forth. And I wonder if that trailer parking area couldn't be a little closer to the barn, allowing for more landscaping in that northerly portion. But all in all, I think it's a very good project.
Thank you, Don. Dave, comments?
Yeah, I think it's a very nice upgrade of both the house and the barn. And I too want to commend the applicant for preserving the house and the barn and sticking with the character, which is very appropriate. So I can support the project.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I agree with the comments. I think the additions and the revisions to the house look great. I think it's going to be a nice treatment. I like what you've done to the site. And I appreciate, Aaron, that you're respecting the oaks and trying to do what you can, certainly. And I've kind of anticipated that you're going to need to maybe supplement with additional oaks. So I appreciate it. I do like Don's idea of maybe moving that parking area a little closer, although it looks like you may have some trees in there.
Yeah.
Might be an issue too. So that might be a challenge for you. That being said, maybe where you got it is just fine. So anyway, you're here for conceptual review. I say, I think you've got some good comments from everybody. Come back.
Could we agendize it if the planner allows for preliminary final next time?
That's up to your planner.
No, that's up to us. I think that we can.
Oh.
I think we can start that process, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
can I just clarify something? This is Alex. So it sounds like only John was the only one who had the comment about the parking pullout.
Yes.
I think that's correct, Alex.
And Bill, the comment about shifting the parking area location. Sorry, I think I kind of missed that. What?
I'm rescinding what I said. Originally, I was talking about Don's idea of the trailer parking, moving it closer, but I think there's a couple of oak trees there that would be impacted. So I think I'm okay with it personally as it is. So I withdraw my comment on that. That had to do with the trailer parking, not the street parking.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we've agreed to have the applicant come back for preliminary and final in the full board review.
Yeah.
With planner consent, yes.
With planner consent, yeah, okay. Sounds good, very good.
Nice job.
Well, nice job. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to, is Tip back yet? Nope, okay, we're on to item 3, 685 Stonehouse Lane, Becker Studio. Do we have somebody from Becker Studio on, ready to present?
Yes, Megan Hart and Daryl Becker are here to present.
Okay, very good, go ahead.
We also have
Yeah, Derek, our landscape architect from Arcadia Studios, is also on.
Okay.
One clarification before we begin. On the agenda, there was a small mistake regarding the grading affiliated with the project. It says the project does not require any grading, and it does require grading. our plans indicated it requires 320 cubic yards. So we just wanted to clarify that before we get started.
Okay.
We are presenting a new residence, guest house, pool, and tennis court on a vacant lot located at 685 Stonehouse Lane. You previously may have seen this project presented in, I think, 2016 by Tom Meany. Compared to that design, we're scaling down the size, bulk, and scale of the house. The house as proposed, it's traditional Spanish colonial architecture with some modern elements, and specifically with respect to the window fenestration. So the house, the net square footage is 5,690 square feet. And then we're also proposing a detached guest house, which is 797 square feet, and a 3-car garage attached to the house. It's on a gently sloped lot that slopes north to south, and it's about a 5% slope. So when the subdivision was divided up, the developer required development envelopes on the parcel. If you go to the next site plan page, we do have those development envelopes indicated on the site plan, primarily to retain these old growth oak trees that are on the site. We're not proposing any removal of oak trees. We tried our best to fit everything within the development envelope. Some small site features like site walls are outside of the development envelope, but very minimal. Going on to the floor plan, pool, and then let's go ahead and go to the elevations, please. That's the guest house. Let's go to the main house. So it's the front entry elevation. It's limestone veneer around the front entry door, traditional plaster, smooth trowel plaster, painted a soft cloud white, Benjamin Moore, antique Spanish tile roof, and then a combination of wood clad and steel doors and windows. We're proposing steel doors and windows at the high traffic areas, such as the kitchen would be a steel door and window, which is the gently arched window at the top, and then on the rear elevation, within that enclosed covered patio area right there on the bottom of the page. And also at the master bathroom elevation, which is adjacent to the covered patio. Go back to the guest house, please. This is the guest house elevation. It connects to the pool. It's further west on the site. It's in between the pool and the tennis court. And it's within the parameters in terms of square footage for a guest house. It's 797, where I know the max is 800 square feet. And then if you want to go to the last page on their material board, which illustrates the proposed materials: antique tile roof, copper gutters, smooth trowel plaster, cloud white exterior, and then a midnight oil window trim, and then the window door fenestration inspiration images to the far left. As far as the hardscape, I'll briefly touch on it, and I'll let Derek really go into the landscape plan. We're proposing a chip seal driveway and then flagstone walk paths and a combination of concrete as well on the driveway. Our sconce spec on the far right of the page is an LED downlight, traditional kind of Spanish Santa Barbara style light fixture, but LED downlight just to meet the dark sky compliant light fixture requirements. We did submit the landscape plan. It was as a separate attachment. It might be in the file if you want to pull that up, and then I'll have Derek elaborate on that. Is there anything else you want to say, Derek?
No, I think that covers it pretty well.
I don't know if I see it here. It's
It was in the box file we submitted.
plans. Let's
If not, I can resend it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it in here.
Do you have access to the county box file?
You could send it to Sharon. She could forward it to me.
Yeah, hold on here.
Do not see it here.
I'll send it to Sharon right now.
We could go to questions about the architecture, I guess, while we're waiting, or does anybody have a problem with that?
No, I think we should keep going,
Keep
Bill.
going, yeah. That
All
sounds
right.
good, Bill.
So let's go to questions on the architecture, and then we'll circle back on the landscape. Sam, do you have any questions on the architecture?
Not so much the architecture, but back to the site plan. I'm looking at kind of the turnaround and how there's a dashed line in the front on A 1.1, and I'm wondering, is that turnaround big enough for the fire department? Has the fire department weighed in on your site plan just in
The
terms of?
fire department has not reviewed our site plan yet, and that dashed line is to indicate it's a discussion item for them because we were worried that as drawn, it looks a little too small. So that is up for discussion with the fire.
Yeah, that was my only concern. I think the circulation would work fine the way you have it, but I don't think that's big enough for the fire truck to get their hose pulls, especially back to the guest house. So you're going to have to, you've already determined that that's something that you'll need to do. And then I guess in terms of encroachment on, say, the tennis court and potentially the main house, the guest house, it looks like it's close to the CRZs. So you guys are going to be working with an arborist. I'm sure Derek or
Correct.
you guys will be elaborating on how the trees will be treated in your presentation for grading, especially for like the tennis court. If you're going to sink it in the back corner, it'll be good to get an arborist to talk to us about that.
Absolutely. We're going to consult with Bill Speedwack.
Those are all the questions I have, Chairman Bill.
This is Alex. Just the documents that you said you wanted to go over, if you can email those to Bill, then he might be able to pull them.
Okay, I emailed it to Sharon, but let me forward it to.
Forward it to me.
Don't know if I have Bill's email.
So the other questions would be about hardscapes. I'm sure what you're trying to find with some of the landscape elaboration.
Excuse me.
Bless you. Say that again. Sam, you're done with your?
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
All right. John Watson, questions? John, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. When Tom Meany brought this project through, he commented about the extreme restrictions imposed by these building envelopes. Are you sure that everything you've done is in absolute compliance with those?
Yes. Yeah,
including the driveways?
correct. We actually worked with studying his prior plan and talked to Tom as well about that. But we definitely have some things still to cover with our planner with regard to, well, fire department, obviously, but the tennis court, we need to go through that. We're showing it outside of the setback, but there are some, as you said, extreme conditions regarding the envelopes. And so we need to discuss that area a little further with our planner.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks, John. Dave, questions?
Yeah. You said there's 300 plus cubic yards of grading. Can you explain where that is and if it's balanced on site?
Correct. The majority of that grading, there's I guess a legacy provision in the subdivision that we have to build the grade up, and that may be one of the things you're alluding to, John, 1.5 feet over a base grade. And so that base grade is at the connection to the garage. And so the fill across the lot is under the house all the way across the parcel, pretty much covering the whole footprint of the main residence to the within the development envelope. So the grading is essentially import to bring the pad up level on a 5% sloping lot. And, you know, it is extreme when you start trying to vary roof heights and whatnot and maintain maximum roof heights. And I think that's what he was struggling with in some of the design. The other house got a lot bigger because it stretched out and stepped up and down across the parcel. So what we tried to do here is minimize the amount of, minimize the height of the building while picking the most favorable grade that would allow that to happen. So that's essentially what our plan does.
Dave, was that all your
Okay. Well, I'm just, you're saying that's a requirement? You can't cut, or?
No, you can't. You can cut, but you have to establish it off of a datum on the under the house, and so the datum is established where the habitable structure occurs, and that occurs at the southerly part of the garage. So we used that datum and then reviewed that datum with flood control, and then have used that.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yes.
It's a flood control requirement.
Correct.
Yeah.
The highest one. Okay, I get it. That helps me understand their need for the grading. Yeah, thanks.
It's an interesting provision because it's not even in a flood zone, but it was a legacy element to the map.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thanks, Dave. Claire, questions?
We're in questions. Great. Okay, good. Thanks for reminding me.
Yes, yes.
Is this lot adjoining the neighbors that go along East Valley Road?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that whole set of neighbors that are right there.
I think it's 2220 and 2222.
Yeah, I know. I mean, in the past with Tom Meany's project and anything that's been proposed for this lot, there's been neighbor comment. And so I'm just going to ask whether you met with those neighbors with this new plan.
No, we did not. We just provided the plan to Montecito for any interested parties review. And we were made aware that there was some scuttlebutt with the prior neighbors, and that's one of the reasons we tried to design a much smaller structure, which we were able to do and satisfy our clients.
Okay, well, I would just appreciate it if you reached out to those neighbors. That, I mean, I know that's a comment, not a question, but because there has been we've spent a lot of time dealing with those neighbors on projects for this particular lot in the subdivision. It's always been an issue, and having been around long enough to know that whatever gets built there, those neighbors want to have something to say about it. So maybe to move your project along, it would be great to meet with them. Yeah, it's these two right here.
Yeah,
Meet with them sooner than later to get you, going through the process. That's not a requirement. It's just, I'm just letting you know that that's what happens.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Claire. Let's see, Don, question.
You go to the elevations of the guest house, please. Yeah, that lower right-hand guest house elevation. I'm wondering why the roof has that kick out right there in lieu of being symmetrical like everything else is on the site. As you look at the
we can make it taller.
the upper east elevation, it just seems like it's unnecessary. I wondered why it was kicked up like that.
I think we were trying to keep the building lower because of the neighbors across the fence, and it's been brought to our attention. I mean, respectfully, I hear Claire's comment. When we come in after two prior previously reviewed plans at Montecito, where we know what the neighbors' complaints have been, we've tried to be very respectful of what's going on along the neighborhood property lines. And there are a massive amount of oak trees along that if you look at the aerial view, but these neighbors have imparted their opinion on what might get developed here. And so we've tried to be as mindful as possible, keeping the plate heights low, but we also want to have taller doors in the northerly facing doors of this guest house. And so that's why the pitch break is there, is to allow for the larger doors facing the pool without having to raise the plate. We could achieve the same thing in a more pure design by just raising the overall plate of that building, and we're happy to do so. If the board feels that it would look better, we're happy to do that. Just makes the building a little bit taller.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
That's all my questions.
Okay, thank you, Don. Tip, I see you're back on. Are you with us, Tip?
I don't see him at his desk.
All right. Saw his name there. So, and I did receive the email and I got frozen there. So I'm going to bring up the landscape plans real quick.
More dramatic.
You're a busy guy, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
No, you just do such a great job, Bill. It's really amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. So Megan, Derek, you want to go ahead and I'll just scroll through these.
Sure. Hello, board. Nice to be with you. This is the landscape plan. You can see the dark olive green massing of all the existing oak trees, with the exception of the one in the motor court. That would be a new one. But as I said, the driveway as you come in would be concrete, probably aggregate, with a row of olives leading up to the main to the entry door. There, as you can tell, it's a pretty big site, and we're keeping most of the development really compact to the edge of the house, so they can use those little garden spaces and then enjoy kind of the open feel that the existing lot already has. So that landscape will be fairly minimal. Probably some meadow areas with edging of California natives. But around the house, the main terrace off of the arcade looking west is the pool deck, indicated with stone, as you saw in the imagery photos. You step up to a terracotta terrace with a trellis on it, which would be a dining terrace. There's a little knot garden off of that for herbs. And that goes north, leading to a fruit orchard that the owners would like to have. On the opposite side of the house, there's a symmetry that you can subtly see crosswise to the pool. So that would lead to a cutting garden that's off the master wing of the house, and there's a series of paths you can access at that point, and at the terminus of the pool deck that steps down to a small lawn. There's a couple other little patios. There's a bedroom patio that's just gravel with some terracotta, with some pavers in it and places for rest. And a similar terrace to the north off of the kitchen facing the east side of the house. I've showed screening along the north edge and the west edge, the east edge, but we actually don't need that east edge planting because there's a existing substantial head of podocarpus. But we will want to add hedging or additional tree canopy along the south property line, as you guys have already indicated. So that's the show.
Okay, thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. I could circle back on additional questions about the landscaping if anybody has any.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay, Claire, go ahead.
I want to know what the fencing is around the proposed in question tennis court.
Oh, there. Yeah.
It shows fencing and then it shows some plant material. So Derek, what's going on there?
We would, I'm pretty sure it's a wire type fencing along.
How tall?
I'd ask ask Daryl to chime in on that. I was just proposing to put something
The
like,
typical tennis court fencing is, we usually use 6x6 wood posts or 8x8 wood posts, and we use vinyl coated black fence fabric. The fence would step, usually we're 3 feet in the middle, and at each end, it raises to 10 feet for tennis court fencing. That's the typical tennis court.
and Claire, typically I like to use Growia caffra as the material growing on the fences. It grows very fast, relatively drought tolerant, and has a nice green color with some flowers.
I have a quick question, follow up, Claire, if you're done.
Yeah, go ahead, because I think this is going to be a sound issue for the, I mean, we just made some requirements on an earlier project about reducing the sound for a, for the neighbors for a court. This is going to produce a lot of sound for the neighbors that are outside of this development. So that's, I just want, you guys have to work that out. You really do.
Understood.
Yeah, so part of working that out, it looks like on your plan, Derek, versus the site plan that shows the trees, that you're considerably closer to the property line. And maybe that's because, Daryl, the other tennis court laid out is a smaller version that's away from the property line a little more.
Correct. Our tennis court, as proposed on the site plan, it's not regulation size, and we specifically did that intentionally to be mindful of the setbacks and
Okay.
also push it away from the neighbor's property.
So we probably should get some trees on that backside.
That explains the difference in the two footprints. That's all the questions I have. Other than, Derek, your new trees, driveway trees and around the house, are they part of your concept sorting?
Yes, the owner really likes olives. So we're gonna do lots of olives and lots of fruit trees. Maybe a few new oaks, and she also likes jacaranda, so we'll mix some of those in as well.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. I had a quick question. The topo here is like a 6-foot cross difference here. And I think you tried to describe that earlier. I think too, aren't these limit lines limiting you to grading as well? I don't think you can grade outside those even. So how do you, are we going uphill here or downhill here?
Downhill.
So we're going from this side down to the motor court, right?
No,
The
opposite way.
Opposite. Okay, so
Right.
so it's high here, low here.
Correct.
So does the house step then inside? Is that what I'm missing? Maybe
It steps between the garage and the house. There's a 3.5-foot transition.
Yeah.
1.5-foot transition, 3 steps.
so. That's enough to
Down
get that.
2 steps.
What's that?
It shows on the floor plan too.
Okay, I was looking for your section here, and
There it is right there. But can you go back through?
Oh, it's not showing up.
Where is
It
that?
doesn't show on the section there, your transverse section, right? That's
You can, go to, where's the site section? It shows the
That's the
gradient.
site section there.
Nor does it show on the elevations.
Pull that
Mr.
up slightly higher.
pull it up higher.
Where's the, what sheet is this
Yeah.
on? One second, I'll direct the sheet.
Oh,
So it shows you cutting into the hill,
kept it and then we changed it back
and
because
then
we
an elevation
kept it
change over
still
here.
under the height limit.
Are you saying you can't cut outside the envelope?
Well, I don't think you can, and that's maybe a question for Alex and whoever established the boundary lines, but I've learned in the past that they usually don't allow you to do grading outside of those lines either, because it's either a development sensitive habitat or whatever it is. So I would.
Yeah, this is Alex. It kind of depends on how the language of the envelopes are worded, but sometimes it will be inclusive of any grading or ground disturbance. Sometimes it's just structural development needs to remain within the envelope. So it kind of depends. You'd have to look at the specific language and what's allowed in or out.
So I guess
Planner would work that out.
I'm sorry.
I'd say the planner would work that out.
Right, yeah. Well, it would certainly change what they're proposing here as well, so.
Generally, something like a tennis court, though, that would normally need to be within an envelope.
Correct.
Yeah, all parts, including the fence itself as well. Is that correct, Alex? So you wouldn't allow even the fencing to go up beyond the, or tennis court? Or
Yeah,
the,
generally speaking, yeah. Again, have to look at the specific language. But.
yeah, okay.
There's a lot of it on this.
Yeah, I'll leave that to the planner and the applicant. That was my question. So that, I think, did everybody get a chance to make their questions, get their questions in? And let us see, is there anyone here in the public that would like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, there was a misfiled comment letter that ended up in item number 9. I believe it was 9. Excuse me, item number 8 that needed to be addressed on this one.
We do have a couple of people, I believe, on who are wanting to speak on this project, including Doug Stone. Is he here? And Mr. Daniels. Are they still on?
I see Ron Daniels raise his hand. Where is Ron Daniels? So Ron, where are you? Can you unmute yourself there? I don't see him on the list here. Ron Daniels, are you there? I don't see his name on this list.
He's on the screen. He just unmuted, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron, you there?
Yes.
Yes, you there?
Yes. So I'm here. It's Ron Daniels. We're 6 Stone House, and I'm sitting outside with my neighbor Dwight Lowell. And you are what number Stone House, Dwight?
615.
615. So we're neighbors. And you know, I think this obviously is an ambitious development and has significant implications for neighbors immediately adjacent to the site. And I just guess I would only reiterate what was raised earlier in the meeting, that we would really appreciate the opportunity to meet with the architects and have and have a chance just to get a better sense of just some of the noise and adjacency issues that were raised today. You know, in particular, I think both Dwight and I are just concerned about the proximity of the main house to our property lines, and would appreciate the opportunity sense of the challenges around that. Excuse me.
You're the neighbors on this south property line, is that correct?
South and east.
South and east. Oh, okay. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you both have enough time to say what you needed to?
I turn it over to Dwight. I know you were yesterday meeting with Sharon, but Dwight, if there's things you want to chime in on.
Well, no, I think my neighbors expressed the subject issues that we would like to talk, with Daryl Becker or whoever would be in the best position to give us a better understanding and walk us around the property so we can have a better understanding and of where this main house will be relative to our property lines.
Okay. Very good. All right.
Absolutely. We invite you to give us a call at our office or email us. We're happy to exchange contact information.
And then I also believe we have, did William Hefner want to speak to this item?
William, are you there? William? I don't see his name on here either.
Bill, I just emailed over that comment letter to you.
Okay. I tried to find it in item 8.
I just emailed it to you, so it should be in your inbox.
Okay.
And Mr. Stone is on, so if he might want to speak.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I submitted, oh yeah, that you've just pulled it up. First of all, I want to say that I do appreciate the work that they've put into this, and I know it's a very difficult building envelope to build on. And generally, I'd be in favor of seeing this lot finally developed. I own both 660 and 670, which is to the north. 670 being the lot, that lot there that the drought damaged avocado grove.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. Anyway, my biggest concern is just is light and screening on that north. If you go back to the proposed, and I hadn't seen the landscape plan, but you'll see there's no screening proposed along much of that north boundary. Now there is, and in fact, I went out and looked this morning, and there's more screening. The prior owners had only done partial, and now they've gone most of the way. I would just want to see that included and to be thick. It's growing in, but so yeah, if you look at that, see how the western half of it, there's no screening at all. Right along there, yes. But I think my biggest concern in listening, I was listening to one of the earlier, to your earlier projects, and was wondering about whether the garage facing the street creates definite issues for light coming on to 670 because of the double back and the design to get to what they're calling the service court, and wonder if the garage maybe should face east rather than facing north.
Okay, was that all your comments?
It was a minor one that I'm happy to talk to Daryl about, the gate and the fence, which I've never understood. But Daryl, do you know what I'm talking about with that?
Yeah, I understand what you're commenting on. I'm happy to meet and discuss that.
Yeah, I don't think we need to bother the MBAR further with that.
Great. All right, thank you. Alex, were there any other people to comment on this?
Check in with William Hefner.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, William.
Anyway, I'm William Hefner. I live at 628 Romero Canyon Road. Our property backs up onto the area where the tennis court is. So the previously developed plans didn't have a tennis court usage back here. So I think I'm concerned. I would sort of follow up on the board's comments about the noise from the tennis court and screening. Right now, there's a very thick pittosporum hedge, which provides privacy between the two properties. And I'm hoping that, and smoke trees, I'm hoping that will stay in place, but I am concerned about how the noise will be handled. And I'm hoping that that screening is planned to stay in place. So those are, I guess, my two main concerns. The main house is far away from me enough, and trees in between us. So I think that's not an issue. It's really just the tennis court. So, and there's significant trees. You can see those on the aerial, but significant trees with roots likely that, because one of them's on our property, that maybe go into the zone where the tennis court is contemplated. So.
All right, thank you, William.
Okay.
Did we get everybody, Alex?
I think so.
Okay, great, thank you. So now we're back to the board for comments. Let's start with John Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Generally speaking, Daryl is correct. Since I've been on the board, I've seen two separate proposals for this project. And I think this seemingly simple site is here to fool everybody. I saw people jumping through hoops to get it to work. So my question was about the driveway and the entrance. I'd like you guys to make sure you've got that in the fire department very well cleared up. onto the, I am concerned from a noise standpoint of view about the tennis court. And from the architectural on sheet PDF page 9, if there's really a slope across the site, I think that we should see that in the elevations, and it's now drawn as being flat. So something's wrong somewhere. And I think that ought to be taken care of. And then there's a question about just proportions above the windows on the second floor and how close they are to the roof line. And I'm wondering if you could study that and perhaps lower the pitch of the roof in order to keep the height the same, to give you a little bit more proportion, above, a little bit more plaster above the windows. I think it would feel less cramped and crowded. And then maybe restudy the entry tower too, maybe step that up a foot or something to allow that to be a little bit grander than it is. Besides that, I think it's a very nice, and these are very minor comments that I think you can get picked up during the next round. I like the project and I wish you the very best of luck in moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, John. Don Sharp.
Thank you. Going back to my guest house question, Daryl, I really feel that it would be better to not have the roof do its being broken like it is and being more symmetrical rather than what I consider to be a little strange there. And I would raise the ridge. Yes, I would raise the ridge slightly. But generally speaking, I think it's a very good approvable project and encourage you to work with the neighbors and get back to us as soon as you can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Sam Maphis, comments?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I like the condensed building footprint. I like the site planning around the house in terms of its symmetry. I'm concerned a little bit about how big that motor court might need to get and how that will kind of integrate with, with the grading. And into that grading question, when you talk about filling for that much on the south end, I wonder how that impacts some of the trees and some of the site and how that higher elevation out of grade is going to kind of touch down to grade. So grading plan is important to me, but I like the way you've compressed it overall. I think my biggest concern is the tennis court in that corner, just how you're going to get that much length of hardscape to be cut in and to drain properly when it's that close to the property line. So I think the tennis court site plan and that much hardscape back there is going to be tricky to work into this flag lot, infill lot. But screening on all sides, as we've heard from kind of the adjacent neighbors, is important. I like the landscape theme. I think it's quality looking materials that you're proposing. So I too wish you luck through all the next steps here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sam. Claire, comments?
I don't have any comments because Mr. Watson made them and Mr. Maphis made the comments that I might have made. So other than that, I think there's work to be done before when it comes back, because the conditions for this subdivision were really gnarly, and back in the beginning, you couldn't even, when it was first all these development envelopes, there was a time in sort of the planning department when you couldn't even get into the lot, and that's been changed. But I do think this driveway and entrance and then going back around, that's, Daryl, I think that's going to be the area that you're really going to have to work on. Yeah, because there's so many conditions inside the original division that was done, by the owner that owned all of it, that, you really need to dig in with that. And also because I also noticed that you don't have a planner assigned. So you really need to get to work and get a planner assigned to work this all out, you know.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Bill, one more quick comment.
Yeah, go
I throw it out there as a question to the fellow board members. Do we want that ridge line, because we've heard from the neighbors adjacent, do we want that ridge line story poles? And I'll let that go to the other members as we deliberate.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Dave Mendro, comments?
Yes, thanks, Bill. To answer Sam's question, I do think that the ridgeline should be story poled, so we have a sense of the scale of the project, especially since we're raising the floor level. And I think, to my mind, the general direction, it looks good. I think it's really important that you confirm the grading. And as Sam mentioned, you know, you've got all that fill, how does that taper off, and make sure that it doesn't impact the existing trees. The building envelope, making sure you're complying with all that, and the fire department. And, you know, those are key elements that could really change the design. So just next time you come back, it'd be great to have those really nailed down. I think it's important to also in the next round to show the proposed screening of property line on the landscape plan, so we know for sure that it's properly screened from the neighbors. I would highly encourage you to look at ways of minimizing the impact of the tennis court to the neighbors and to the trees. And I had one other item. On the elevations, I think I like the direction of the architectural style, but I am concerned about the starkness, and some of that might just be the way it's presented. You know, having deep window recesses, you've got flat arches and full arches. And
right.
I just think there can be some more refinement as you move forward, which I'm sure you're going to do anyway, but I would encourage you to do that because these are just such stark two-story flat forms. And those are my comments. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Dave. Yeah, I think generally speaking, you know, the architecture is heading in the right direction. I would agree with the board members. I think you're going to need to work out your site sections and your grading, and certainly get with your planner to figure out whether or not you can grade outside the envelope, and whether you can have fences outside the envelope, and you know, all of the things that are going to be allowed with that envelope creation. I would highly encourage you, which I know you're going to do, is get with your neighbors and work out the details with them and kind of discuss their concerns and make sure they're good with all that's going on. Meet with your fire department, make sure they're on top of everything. And I think story poles would be probably a good idea. Now, at what point do you want to do that? I think maybe you want to get with your planner, work out some of the details, and if things are substantially different, then spend the money to do the story poles at that point. But you might want to wait till you get a little further down the road with fire and with neighbors and with planner and with all of those before you set up the story poles. But I think at some point we'll probably want to see that. And does everyone agree with that on the board?
Yes, I do think this one just needs that ridge done. You know?
Yeah, just a ridge, I think would be good.
I agree.
Okay.
I think it's probably wise for us to story poll it once we've met with our planner and come back to preliminary. And ideally, we'd like to take your comments and do that.
Yeah.
So we have no problem story polling that ridge.
Okay. Very good. All right. So you're on here from conceptual. So we'll you know what you need to do. We'll see you when you can get back.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Just to clarify, returning for further conceptual with site visit and story poll?
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should wait until after the next round of conceptual before we story poll it. Let's find out what's really going to come down. And then, because I don't think that this is a real proposal yet. I think it's getting close, but there's too many factors that are floating around.
Yeah, I agree. So come back for preliminary full board, and then we'll decide story polls or not at that point. No, we will want story polls. It's just, we'll wait.
Not preliminary though, right? Further conceptual after a planner's been assigned?
Okay, further conceptual.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, we're on to item number 4.
Bill, I'm back.
Okay, Tip, all right.
Thank you, Bill.
You are back. Take over,
Right.
item number 4.
Yeah, so we are, no, we're on to number 5.
Oh, yeah, right, correct. 4 was,
Correct.
or.
Number 4 being continued. So
Continue.
number 5, 1281 Channel Drive. Is the applicant online?
Yes. Good afternoon, board. This is Steve Welton from Suzanne Elledge's office. Here with me on a different line, and I'll ask you to unmute him at some point, is Barry Winnick from Winnick Architects. It's the one with the logo for whoever's unmuting. And
Yeah,
also,
so you were here previously on 7/23/20.
that's correct.
We had a couple comments. So I'm to read them for the record. Number 1, nice project. Number 2, changes in of existing development. Number 3, one member recommends eliminating glass in tower element. And number 4, 2 members suggest downlights placed high in tower could be potentially viewed from the beach. So if you can, Steve, go ahead and address those comments, and I know you are here for preliminary and / final approval, and maybe
That's
go
right.
over some of the drawings, some of the details, so we can look at everything.
Yes, I'm going to hand it off to Barry Winnick here in a moment from Winnick Architects to provide the presentation. There's a presentation PDF that was included with our submittal, which hopefully you can turn to. Before I do, I just want to let you know that we did return to Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission because this is a historic landmark on August 10th and received final approval from HLAC, which was what we were looking to get. And now back here for you for preliminary and final. And if whoever's in charge of the Zoom can please unmute Winnick Architects, the one that has a logo on it, I'll hand it off to Barry Winnick to run through his presentation.
Thank you.
Find him here.
Barry, are you online?
He is muted, it looks like. It is, unfortunately, he did not get an invite link, so he's in the audience.
Trying to find him right now, Steve.
Yeah, I know, Bill, there's a lot there. There's a Winnick Architect logo on him.
I can see it bottom right corner of my screen, but he does, I don't know if we can control his audio, Steve. Maybe he has to do it.
I think only Sharon can control the audio. Is that right, Sharon?
Oh, there he goes. He's now on.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There he comes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So I'm Barry Winnick, and also with me is Bill Medell and from Ty Warner Hotel and Resorts, and Will Lopez from Winnick Architects. So thank you for giving us time today. We did put together a presentation in order to address the comments that came up in the minutes. Also, as Steve Welton mentioned, we had gone in front of HLAC in order to get their favorable comments, and we also went in front of the members committee on the 20th of August and got incredibly favorable comments from them as well. So we're pretty excited about the project, and quite honestly, we were very appreciative of the favorable comments that you shared with us during our last meeting. So going right to those questions on this presentation, helpful to have these elevations. Maybe we should go to the plan, which is the next page. Oh, sorry, Bill. And so on this page, and the point of information, because we brought this up last time, on item A was the one issue that the HLAC was most interested in. That's where the FIN's pool service is, and we made some architectural adjustments to our design there based on, in fact, Howard Whitash had some good recommendations that we were able to incorporate. So that was well received. And then the comments that really are in play that you've mentioned relate to the next drawing page. If we go to the next page, and that'll be item D. And at item D, we are providing, this is up at the clock tower, up at the second level, at the terrace level. And at the clock tower and also at that deck just to the behind the clock tower, up page and off to the west, we've proposed putting in glass windscreens so that people, well, actually not as far as who's ever doing the pointer. I don't know if you can see my pointer. Just this area that's just where there's like an L shape. Exactly. You can see the red dot, that area, and then also at the clock tower itself. We're proposing putting in a glass screen that's only, I think, 21 inches of glass. And the reason for that is so that people in the cool evening hours can stand there or sit there and be protected from the weather, but still enjoy being there. This next image shows what the glass looks like. It was an example of non-reflective low iron glass on the left versus regular low iron glass on the right. The non-reflective allows one to see through it, so it has much less of a presence in the place. And the image that you see below with the little red dot in the middle of it of the glass is an example of existing non-reflective low iron glass at the restaurant. So we're proposing using the same material that's already out there and providing the same function. That glass also provides wind protection. The study that we did, yes, if you can go to the next page, this would be great. Go, yeah, please keep going. Is this Bill that's doing this? So
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for navigating. I know I'm not giving great instructions. I think you all can see where the clock tower is on the left. Maybe go to the next page. And that just gives you an enlarged version. So let's go to the next page. And on this page, one of the discussion items was also about the light fixture. So, and you'll see in a section that we'll show you in a minute, but the light fixture that we're using, it's made by Lucifer Lighting, and it's a very high quality LED light that is in a recessed aperture that's only 2 inches by 2 inches, 2700 Kelvin, and it has a black, the interior of the aperture is all painted out in black in order to cause non-glare, which is in fact how Lucifer likes to develop these lights in the first place. So it's a non-glare light fixture. And it's also, we go to the next page, you'll see that it's mounted within the ceiling of the clock tower in the roof area, and that off to the side, outside of it, there is the fabric awning that wraps around, or eyebrow that wraps around the entire structure. So it helps keep it concealed. The reason for our proposing this new lighting versus what's out there currently is the current lighting is in the floor and it's not adequate for people who are in the location to see at all. So we're putting light in the ceiling in order to give it proper lighting. But it'll be low level and, as I said, non-glare. The next image, this is great. So this is a study we did specifically for HLC. They were comfortable with having the glass windscreen if somebody could experience both situations. So when you're sitting, as you see in this diagram, the wind is protected by the glass from the wind, but if you stand up, you could still feel the breeze on your face. So that was how we calibrated this. And of course, all you have to do is walk 10 feet away from this area and you're fully exposed. No glass anywhere else at that point, at that height. So that pretty much takes care of that. The last things that are scrolling through are, that's that outdoor members lounge. Each of these components, what we did is we wanted to make sure we presented to HLC everything we're presenting to MBAR, and likewise the same. This is the material board, which basically is saying that we're keeping all the same materials that are currently out there. We're using the same Redmond Garris for the decks. We've got the same precast concrete around where we're putting the spa relocation with the same inset stone. We're using the same white painted redwood siding, and all our glass is low iron. So that's that part of the presentation. There are drawings that show details if you feel the need to walk through them. That we did provide that package. It's a pretty straightforward project in terms of the detailing, because almost all our details we're taking from the context of what's duplicating the same details. So when we put, a curve around the spa, it's matching the same coping tile, same precast concrete that's around the pool coping. So, everything is really staying the same. Just
Barry, since you are here for final approval, can you just go through those details?
by all means, and I think that's the package that's in front of you now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, we see it here.
So, I mean, we're happy to stop anywhere you want. Right now, we're at fins, where there's the counter detail, which we just gone past it. We're now at the clock tower, where, we're following the same kind of attachment details for the low iron, non-reflective glazing as before. Some of these are.
Keep going.
Mm-hmm. And some of this is from the same presentation. Okay, this is the private dining where we're putting in New Hope's sliding windows in order to have it fully open when they're in the retracted position. That's showing the triple panel of Hope's doors in the retracted position. And this is the outdoor members lounge, which is going on top of the roof of the banquet loading zone. It's loading, I should call it the service zone, not the loading zone, but the service zone. It shows the outside elevation. There's the detail of the glass screen.
Okay, are you done with your presentation?
I think we're done. Thank you for
Thank you.
scrolling through it, Bill.
Thank you, Barry. So back to the board for questions. Let's start with John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Lucifer series, the 2 series, that's 2 inches in diameter, correct?
That is correct.
And I'm out on their webpage actually, and it says that they can go anywhere from 3 3/4 to 6.5 inches deep. Which one? I can't figure out from your drawings which one it is you're proposing, please. Could you tell me?
Yeah, so it says that the housing is 6.5.
So that's the deepest one they've got.
Right. And we're fine with that one. I think that's the one that we're highlighted.
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
that's one of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Sam.
Just a sec, hang on. I don't have any questions. Sorry for the delay. Trying to click in.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Claire.
No questions.
Thank you. Don.
Yeah, one question, Barry. Is there currently any radiant heat in the floor, or are you proposing any?
So there is radiant heat in the floor at the Coral that's existing over at the Coral Cafe on the ground floor. We're not proposing any new radiant heat on the facility.
Okay, well, obviously my concern is later adding heaters that are suspended and so forth that would clutter up the good design. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Bill.
No questions, Tip. Thank you.
Okay, Dave.
No questions, Tip. Thanks.
Thank you. Barry, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed to me like, I'm not sure, are you changing any of the floor paving for the corals? As I know that previously they had some slippery issue with gas and members. That's my question.
Again, guess I didn't hear what the question was. I heard a
The
statement
question
that-
was, the existing paving material for the outside lobby tend to cause slippery. It's very slippery when wet, and I know that they had issues previously with members and guests. Are you having any plan to change that?
No, in fact, we're currently cleaning it and repairing it. So there isn't an intention to remove it. And I wasn't aware of what you've just shared, but no, the intention is to restore those floors and as well as the pool deck area to have it clean and as pretty as it was when it was installed back in 2000 and I believe 6 or 7.
Yeah, that's a question because I think the pool deck is great, but I think the stone that was selected for the main the circulation area is really, as I recall, it's really a problem in terms of cleaning and slippery, and that's just a question for the owner.
Okay. Anyway, it's not part of the project scope. So, you know, we're not looking to make changes in those areas.
So you're just going to clean those areas. Exactly, that's what I meant, that area right there.
Yeah, that would get cleaned, but we're not making changes. In fact, the opening that we're putting in for the Finn's pool service has no effect on that outside area.
Are you changing any of the awnings on the outside, like the existing pole stripe?
Well, that particular one in the photograph, that little awning is going away because it's being replaced by the eyebrow design that we're doing.
Yeah, but what about for the rest of the club?
I'm sure there's a maintenance program for the awnings, but again, it's not part of our submittal.
All right. Okay, those are my questions. So I'm going to open public comments. Sharon, do we have anything? Or Alex?
I don't see any letters here.
All right, so with that, I'm going to close public comments and
I don't think we have any comment.
yeah, thank you. And back to the board, and this item is here for preliminary / final approval. So let's start with John.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, I was concerned about those lights up in the clock tower. I think this is a very good proposal that they're making. And I now feel that this is quite a nice project that I can easily support.
Thank you. Don?
I agree with John. It's a very supportable project.
Thank you. Dave?
Yes, I agree that it's a very well thought out design and very consistent with the historical aspects of the project, and I can fully support it.
Great. Claire?
Me too.
Thank you, Claire. Sam?
Yes, I agree, and I'm ready to make a motion if everybody's had a chance to say what they need to say.
Okay, Bill?
Yeah, no, I support it, and I really like the water material that they've chosen here. In the palette, I like that.
All right, so Sam,
I
would
support
you like to make a motion?
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion for final approval of the upgrade architecture that they've presented today.
Should be preliminary
Preliminary
/ final.
Preliminary, are we at
I think you do, and the motion should be preliminary.
preliminary
and
final? Yes, let's catch both preliminary and final review, and this is for final. Both.
Matter of fact, Sam, can you hold on for 1 second? I believe I received a public comment that we need to open public comments again. And it's from Doreen Johnson.
Can you hear me?
Doreen, yes, we can hear
Oh,
you.
good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and MBAR Board. My name is Doreen Lee Johnson. I'm presently the Land Use Chair for the Montecito Association and former HWAC. I did talk to Howard Wichtalk, and I appreciate the applicant's presentation. I do just have 2 quick questions, and Howard was trying to look for the back records of that. If there's some fabric that was approved historic, and I believe it was for the cabanas, so maybe you could the applicant answer that if that's been preserved and stored. And then also I believe I saw one of the pictures that Barry presented is the railing around the second floor. That's around the second floor. Is that preserved? Is that the original railing that's been preserved? And maybe the applicant could answer that question. Really appreciate that.
Barry, would you like to address those two questions?
Sure. And again, keep in mind, in both cases, these aren't part of the proposed project related to those questions, but I'm happy to answer them. For the railing.
The railing, again, you're doing the glass panels, right? So I just wanted to see if it's been preserved. I understand. Just want to see.
I'm happy to answer you. So if you allow me to, I think you like my answer. So
Okay,
anyway, thanks for asking the question. I just wanted to be clear about scope. We're not changing those railings. And just so you know, the railings where we are changing are the ones that are right where the little red dots are, and those are not original railings. Those are metal and wood railings that were added in the last renovation, and they're non-historical. So those will be removed and discarded. The new glass railings will go in place of those. But the railings that I think you care about are the ones that are in front of those, which have the wood cap. And those wood cap railings are staying in place, and they are historic. And there's no plan to remove them or, change that design. And inside of them, going back to 2006, there is a glass railing, or the glass balustrade, which is at 42 inches tall, which was put in order to preserve those other railings, because those other railings were at a height that didn't meet current code. So they're staying, and they're not going anywhere. In terms of the fabrics at the Coral, unfortunately, the fabrics are not historic. There are photographs of the fabrics for the awnings, which back in 2006, we paid attention to photographs which were black and white, and we inferred black and white photos as best as we could to come up with what we felt the color scheme should be.
Barry,
yes?
it's Steve Welton. I think, Doreen, you're referring to the historic fabric of the cabanas, the story.
Right. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, hi.
Fabric
No,
of
she's
the
talking about the cabana. Yes, there is a protocol plan, Doreen, that was prepared by our architectural historian, and which included, numbering each plank as it was removed, and that was done according to the preservation plan. And they're stored.
And stored. Those were stored back in 2006. Sorry, I didn't realize. I was literally thinking, fabric as in cloth fabric.
No.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Barry and
Sure,
Steve.
thank you.
All right, back to the motion by Mr. Mathis.
And I seconded it. This is Dave.
Seconded by Dave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
you.
Good
Thank you
luck.
very much.
Thank you.
So now we are on to item number
6.
6. Thank you, Claire. 280 Butterfly Lane. Is applicant online?
We are here. Brian Banks here, along with Britt Jewett and Scott Minsel.
Thank you, Brian. And this item was here on April 30th, 2020. And you are here for preliminary / final approval for a new dwelling of 2,410 square feet. So I'm going to read the meeting minutes from April 30th. Bill, do you have it?
I'm trying to find them actually, and I don't see them in the list here. Material board, MBAR drawings. I have a memo, but no minutes. I do not see the minutes, unfortunately.
So Brian, do you have
the box site online as well, Bill?
What's that? Say that again.
Sorry, the minutes are on the box site for the public online. I just pulled them up a little while ago.
You're gonna make me go over there and find it.
This architect, who knows me?
Okay, let's see. Well, I don't know if I can get to the box folder easily. Do you have them, Brian?
I do. I think Doreen's mic is still on.
Chip said I had good comments.
So Brian, do you have
Doreen, make sure you mute yourself.
Where is she?
I do, Bill. I'll read them to you.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Brian.
Number 1, architectural style is acceptable. Number 2, paving seems excessive. Number 3, look to soften architecture with additional landscaping and less paving to provide greater screening from the street. Consider single driveway entrance by eliminating easterly driveway. And number 4, look to increase landscaping on east side with additional planters and reduction in paving.
Thank you, Brian. So if you, your team can address those comments.
Yes, my presentation is simple. We did everything you asked. So I'm going to turn it over to Britt and Scott.
Okay, since our last meeting, we've been moving the documents forward, concentrating on architectural details and the driveway. With respect to the architecture, no change to the plan or volumes. We're just detailing the materials, which are, the palette is pretty common. It's plaster, steel windows, native stone, and a tile roof. Based on the board comments, we did study the site plan, specifically the loop drive, to eliminate one of the gates. It was requested that we take a look at using the east gate, and we did look at that extensively. We ended up deciding that the west gate was an improved location for the gate because it consolidated the service portions of the site to the west and allowed for a landscape component to be outside of the main hallway and the principal fenestration at the front of the house. We feel that the interior and connection to a landscape amenity was a big bonus. I think it's just solid planning principles that they kind of landed us at the east gate. And to Don's comment about the orientation from the gate, the view to the house, we looked at that and modified the angle a bit so that we're not looking at the garage, but I have a sight line that goes across those principal forms of the front elevation, and we think it's a solid composition from the gate. One of the things that happened as a result of moving to the east gate was that we don't drag the driveway across the site any longer. So we previously had 3,072 square feet of paving, and with the proposed we're at 1,422. So we reduced it by more than half. It's now, it was 1,650 square feet of paving that we reduced with the new configuration, and that's 53% reduction of what we had previously. So the rest of the changes of the project fall into the landscape components, and I'll let Scott take over from there.
All right. My name is Scott Menzel. I'm the landscape architect. And if we could take a look at the planting plan. There we go. So I think Britt did a good job of highlighting the significant reduction we made in the amount of hardscape, and that really gave us the opportunity to add a whole nother layer of landscaping inside the front sidewall. So where we had paving essentially up to the sidewall inside the gates, we now have an 8-foot+ wide planter in which we have additional plantings to really soften and screen the view from the street and to create privacy from the house. We're using a mixed palette of jacaranda, king and queen palms, giant bird of paradise, bamboo. Those are the main taller plantings, which are really going to create the sense of privacy. We also, I know there was concern on the east side about the lack of planting that we had on the east side. We essentially, in the plan we previously presented to you, had paving all the way up into the northeast corner, and we have a fairly significant planter area there now. And we've also added raised planters. They are about 30 inches tall, and that will help us elevate some of those plantings to gain additional height. It's really a very consistent plant palette from front to back. As you can see in the backyard, our planter space is pretty limited towards the perimeter. But there again, we're using that really dense layered plantings with palms, jacaranda tree, and then an understory.
Thank you. Brett, so since you are here for final approval, can you go through some of the details and color board?
Yes, the color is just a muted white, and our tiles are a Redlands tile that is a terracotta color. Windows are from Riviera bronze, and there's columns at the front porch there that are sandstone columns that are just a really streamlined and simple geometry that is accentuated by where we do the grout joints. There's a sunscreen that's located at the master bedroom that we're also going to do in a steel element there. So it's sort of a moving forward of an aesthetic that you might associate with Irving Gill, and just bring it into a more contemporary expression of his early modernism.
Do you have a color board?
I think that there was one submitted with the materials. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Can we see one?
Yeah, I've got it here.
There you go.
Great. Okay, thank you. Are you done with your presentation?
Thank you.
Thank you. So back to the board for questions. Let's start with Don.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Dave?
No questions, Tip. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Claire?
Yeah, my question is, I didn't see, I know we looked at the landscape plan, but I did not see, and I didn't have time to go through all these plans, but where's the lighting plan? Is there a lighting plan?
There is not a lighting plan.
Okie dokie, thank you.
All right. Bill?
No questions, Tip.
Thank you, Bill. John?
Yeah, I want to follow up on Claire. So Scott, since there is no lighting plan, can we assume that you have no intentions on providing landscape lighting?
That would need to be verified with the clients.
Okay. And number two, on PDF page 28, please. At the street level, at the top of this page, there's a gray area, which I assume is a pullout for people, guests, and all of that. Is that existing or is that new?
That is proposed.
That's new. Okay, very good. Thank
Yes.
you. All I have to say. The only questions I have.
Well, thank you, John. And Sam?
Sam, we don't hear you.
Sam? Well, we lost Sam.
No, I'm back. Let me ask Scott a quick question. So as far as irrigation support for the plan, for your landscape plan, do you have all that in your package?
Well, I'll be totally honest and miss the boat on the fact that this was for preliminary / final. So that is why you are not seeing an irrigation plan.
Okay, that's my question. I saw that it seemed like there might be a move to try to jump everything forward, which I agree, you've got most everything, but I think we need a few other things sorted out on the landscape side and maybe lighting side. So those are my questions right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. So with that, I'm to open public comments for item number 6, 280 Butterfly Lane. Bill, do we have any letters?
I do not have any letters in my package.
Okay, and Alex, do we have anyone? or Sharon in the audience?
I don't believe so. Do you see any
Okay.
hands coming up?
I do not.
Okay.
With that, I'm going to close public comment to the board. And this item is here for preliminary / final approval. So let's start with Dave.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I appreciate the modifications to the driveway and the reduction of the paving and the increase in the landscape, which I think will benefit the community and your client. And so that was my main concern. The detailing of the project and everything else looked very nice, and I can support the project pending confirmation of the landscape lighting and irrigation.
Dave, Don.
Yes, I echo those comments. I think it's a superior project, and thank the architect, the landscape architect, for taking our comments and running with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Claire.
I would agree with the previous comments, and at this point, I mean, we could, at this point, for me, we can go ahead and give it preliminary and move it on. And with the applicant to return with the landscape issues that are there, which is the lighting plan and the other one that somebody else mentioned. All the irrigation calcs. I mean, we don't have that here. So this, for me, I can't give this final approval. So that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I agree. I think it's a well-conceived project and moving in the right direction. I'm very supportive preliminary. We just need a few things, additional things documented for review by the board.
Thank you. John.
And I echo that as well. I want to thank the applicant for seriously taking a look at the driveway in the front. I think this is definitely ready for preliminary. I think that the architectural portion is ready for final, but because we can't bifurcate our approvals, I would recommend we approve a preliminary and have the landscape architect only come back at consent level to review any lighting that they have proposed and the irrigation. That's all. Those are my comments, please.
Thank you, John. Bill?
I agree with exactly what John said. I can't add anything else. Perfectly said, and well done, Britt.
Okay, thank you. So with that, can I have a motion for preliminary approval for the house?
I'll make that.
Moved.
And with the final on consent for landscape.
I'll make that motion. Are you okay with the consent on all that review, Claire?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make that motion then, Tip.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Second by Don. All vote in favor?
Aye.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, may I say something?
Yes,
Claire and
please.
I have been reviewing the consent calendar, and I just want to give you a heads up. We do have trouble with a lot of landscape lighting, so it might be wise to be modest. That's do what you need to do, but just be forewarned. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And motion approved, and thank you, and come back when you are ready and we can put you back on consent for landscape.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are moving on to item number 7, 1422 East Valley Road. Is the applicant online?
Hello, Daryl Becker and Megan Hart are here to present on behalf of Becker Studios for the Schwab residents at 1422 East Valley Road.
Welcome back.
Previous,
Previously, you were here on April 16, and let us go through the meeting minutes.
Don't have minutes of that one either for some reason.
You don't have it?
No, I don't. I do not have the minutes.
Daryl, do you have a meeting minutes from?
Yes. We do. The in-bar comments from the last meeting. Number 1, need elevations for the hobby room. Number 2, nice project, improvement over the existing condition. And then the last, it says no action taken, Mayfis absent. The project received comments only. The project may return for preliminary approval with planner's approval.
In
Okay,
that,
thank you.
in that meeting, we were told we could finalize the drawings and come back for preliminary final, but it would involve obviously all the details appropriate for the project. So
Yes, if you can go ahead and address those comments and then walk us through your drawings and show us all the details and the color board and lighting plan and landscape.
Absolutely. So the hobby room elevations are on sheet A2 5.2 right there. So the material palette of the hobby room is very similar to the material palette we're proposing for the main residence. Stone veneer cladding on the lower portion of the building with smooth troweled plaster on the upper portion of the building. Wood aluminum clad windows, standing seam metal roof.
that's copper roof.
Bonderized metal roof. And then let's go through the details at the, so A 9.0 is our material board.
Roll through them just quickly. Yeah. Details, Mike, getting close to it.
Page 22.
Page 22 on the PDF.
All right, there we go.
So we're proposing the core roof structure, Tesla solar roof tiles, and then in certain areas like entry porches, bonderized metal standing seam roof, and then also on the hobby room, gutters and downspouts, mitered edge, standing seam, bonderized metal. The stone veneer for the exterior walls, it's El Dorado stone veneer, and then we're going to doing smooth troweled plaster, cloud white plaster painted over the plaster, and then the window trim is Benjamin Moore Iron Mountain. It's a gray color, and we're doing smooth troweled concrete planters off the dining room at the back elevation. Our exterior sconce specs are both dark sky compliant. They're there in the right corner of the page, and they're called out on the lighting plan as well, where the placement of those are.
What about the landscape plan?
So Derek, are you on the line? Derek from Arcadia
I am.
is also affiliated with this project, and we have landscape sheets, the last 4 sheets of the PDF. Derek, you want to go into those?
Sure.
I'll start with this one, Derek, or the one ahead of that.
Do you have LC1?
LC1? Oh yeah, there it is, yeah.
There we go. So this is the basic site plan. It's a, as you know from previous presentation, it's a somewhat traditional ranch style house, which is being upgraded to be much more contemporary. And so the paving materials and the layout are reflecting that. I think you can see in the imagery that we're going for ashlar paving pretty much throughout, with the exception of some large concrete pads that you can see in the back, and some DG paths which allow circulation around the site. The existing pool deck is being expanded right now. It just sits in the lawn, and we're creating, so from the house courtyard, that material is brick now. We're changing that also to be a cut stone and an ashlar type pattern. New steps that descend to a secondary terrace. There's a small retaining wall that functions as a seat wall, which will probably be finished in a wood top. And then the deck paving, which will have chaise lounges and outdoor furniture. And that is pretty much the site. I'm gonna do the planting real quick. There we go. The existing courtyard that you come into is surrounded by large existing tea trees, which we're saving. There's a large ficus tree in the middle of the courtyard we are also saving. North of the building right there is a huge oak tree, one of the largest oaks I think I've ever seen. We're adding some sparse native planting under there so as not to get into the root zone of the tree. Along the front of the house, we're completely redoing the planting. It's all northern exposure, so we're working hard to do shade tolerant, drought resistant planting, which you can probably find in the legend. There's this existing fountain in the upper northeast corner, which we're rehabbing and adding a very small lawn with some new planting around the periphery. In the backyard, where the pool is being redone. Just one second. Yeah. Business. In the backyard, there's an existing St. Augustine lawn that, well, it's mixed grasses. We're replacing that also with the UC Verde buffalo grass. Other trees include the Arbutus marinas and there's an existing olive that's also being relocated. So that's essentially it.
Right, are you completed with your presentation?
There's an irrigation plan which shows that we've met our MAWA calculations.
Thank you, Derek. Okay, I'm going to go back to the board for questions. Dave?
No questions, Tip, thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Sam?
The only question is, do you propose any exterior lighting?
Yes,
There's
we are.
Oh, go ahead, Megan.
Go ahead.
Derek, go ahead.
There's no lighting on my sheets.
None proposed, okay.
And existing.
That's all the questions.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Bill?
No questions.
Thanks. Don?
No questions.
Claire?
No questions.
John?
Mr. Chairman, on Bill, on PDF page 22, please. And if you can focus in on the exterior wall materials. So which stone texture are you proposing from El Dorado?
Oh, I have it.
Great question.
Great question.
There's two.
Is it the ridge top?
It's the ridge top
Ridge
18,
top, yes.
exactly. Thank you.
Yes.
We have it.
Okay, so we need to get that added on the plans. And
Okay.
the second thing, this wall sample that you have says painted per paint. But when I look at that, it looks like an integral color that has variegations in it. Is that supposed to be a solid, singular, plain color of a painted wall, or were you going to go with an integral color to match that view?
It's a solid paint color. If you scroll down slightly and over to the left, it's not integral. That's paint spec 1. So that would be painted over that plaster finish.
Very good, thank you.
That's it, John?
Yep, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to open public comments for item number 7, 1422 East Valley Road. Bill, do we have any letters?
No letters from my side.
And Alex, do we have anyone in the audience?
Using a lot of bandwidth or something.
I see no hands raising.
I don't believe so.
Okay, with that, I'm going to close public comment for item number 7 and back to the board. And this item is here for preliminary / final approval. Don?
I have no further comment. Thank you.
This is, okay, all right. Bill?
Yeah, I think I don't see any reason why we can't move it forward. It looks real good. I have no problem with any of it. I think we can support the way it's shown here. And unless somebody else has comments about it otherwise, looks like they're ready for building permit.
Yes, any board members have additional comments?
I'm just wondering whether, John, in reviewing the plan, are all the details all in line?
Yeah, I thought when I reviewed it earlier today, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at them too, and they look pretty good.
John, one comment related to your prior question about the Ridgetop 18 stone veneer. We do have it detailed and called out on sheet A 6.0 detail 7.
Thank you.
What PDF page is that, please?
It's PDF page 18.
Thank
It's right
you.
here too.
Oh, there, yeah.
Okay, so it seems like we are ready to make a motion for preliminary / final for item 7. Who would like to make the motion?
I will, Mr. Chairman. I would move for preliminary approval preliminary and final approval as submitted, noting that there is no landscape lighting as part of this project.
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Don. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are on to the last item for today, item number 8, and that's 321 Hot Springs Road.
So before we go too far, Claire, how you doing? You feeling okay?
I'm still hanging. I'm doing
All right.
good.
You gonna stick
Hey,
this?
thank you for
Good.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to check. Sure you're okay.
So back to item number 8. Is the applicant online? Yes, you are. It's the same team. Your name for the record, please.
Carol Becker and Megan Hart.
Thank you. And you are here for preliminary / final approval. And let's go through the meeting minutes of June 11.
Do have those.
We have a couple comments. Number 1.
Tip, we lost you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You lost me?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
Try
that again.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So number 1, nice project. Number 2, look to pool garage off side yard setback. Number 3, consider lowering roof pitch. Number 4, consider lowering second floor plate height. Number 5, architectural style is appropriate. Number 6, second story element further to refine design and enhance articulation. And number 7, side visible story poles require, which I know you have it for today. So if you can address those 6 comments.
Let me go ahead and do that.
Okay, so we did pull the garage ADU off of the setback line. If you go to PDF page 3. So we pulled it slightly over. It's about 5 feet. It doesn't show that well on this site plan, but we did pull it over. And then one clarification is we installed the story poles, and just based on our correspondence with flood control and neighboring property owners, we ended up submitting this site plan, which shows the garage pushed 35 feet back off the property line compared to our initial proposal. And then also on the main house, we pushed that back 30 feet from our initial proposal. And if you scroll up to the second PDF page 2, where we're proposing the house is almost exactly on top of where the former house used to be.
Just clarify the story poles are further forward 30 feet.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the story poles as installed that the board looked at today are 30 feet closer to the street than we're proposing in this presentation.
Both for garage and house?
Both for the garage and house, correct.
They're 30 feet closer than they're.
Further,
They're further back. The story poles are further closer than we're proposing the house.
Got it.
And we apologize to the board, but essentially we submitted these plans and we're told we needed to story pole the property, which we did, thinking we can get on an earlier agenda. And because of some of the delays through planning and clearing with flood control, we were delayed on getting an agenda. So we've since met with flood control and our planning staff and cleared that hurdle. But in the course of doing that, we ourselves realized, and working with flood control, that the house is better sited exactly where it was for flood control reasons, not architectural reasons.
So Daryl, while you're on that, did you raise or lower the house because
Correct.
you moved it farther back?
We lowered both the house and the garage. We lowered the house by 1.5 feet, 1 foot.
1 foot, we effectively changed the roof pitch from a 6 and 12 to a 5 and 12 roof pitch.
And what about the garage structure?
We did the same thing with the garage where we changed the roof pitch from 6 and 12 to a 5 and 12.
And that came down a foot as well.
Exactly.
So what we see on the site today with the story poles is incorrect, both horizontally by 30 feet and vertically by 1 foot.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
So as additional clarification, I just forwarded a PDF to Bill Wolf. It shows highlighted on a site plan where the story poles are installed and where we're currently proposing the house pushed back on the lot. Just for a visual for that.
So does this set that's submitted have a correct site plan
Yes.
Yes.
for the new position with the house moved back to the west and the garage?
Correct.
Correct. So in this image on the screen here, the green outline is where the story poles are currently installed. And the pink outline is where we're proposing the structures.
And what our set represents that you're reviewing. We just want to be very clear about this.
Yeah, really?
Oh,
confusing.
A little confusing, yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
very confusing.
Okay, so Bill, would you go back and show the green and the purple? Yeah, thank you. So you did not slide the garage structure farther north or south. You just slid it horizontally.
The flags on site are flown over the green representation. The pink representation is where we intend to build the buildings back.
He's asking if we push the garage north. Yes,
Yes,
we
we
pushed the
pushed
garage
garage 5
north,
feet.
5 feet north.
5 feet north.
And is that reflected in the story poles on site, please?
No.
No, I don't think they were in story
No, it
poles
was
before the
not.
garage.
It was done, yeah, the story poles went up before we shifted it.
Okay.
So the story pole is not a reflection of the submitted drawings.
That's correct. They're representative of the prior submitted drawings that we submitted to the planner, intending to go to this review committee. And then we had further dialogue with flood control and realized that the building needed to go back exactly as it was before for flood control reasons. And because the poles were already up, we just left the poles up and decided to have this dialogue with you.
Okay, so let's go through all your drawings first, details and everything.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
And just for the board, this is Tess on the call as well. If you have questions about the flood control conversations, the planner and I the planner is also on the call, but both of us were part of those as well. But essentially they're moving it for safety reasons at this point.
Correct.
And you have all the details, Daryl?
Yes.
Yes, plans are fully detailed and color boards are in.
Exterior lighting plan. And,
Yeah, let's go through the color boards, you, please.
okay.
Is that here? Oh, do you have a separate color board? Did you submit a separate color board?
So it's on sheet A 6.0 at the top left corner. Oh, I guess it's the last page of the PDF set. Right there. Great. So as far as the roof material goes, we're proposing a bonderized standing seam metal roof in a gray color. And then exterior walls, batten board wood siding, painted Benjamin Moore simply white. Windows are a combination of wood clad or metal clad and steel. Steel windows primarily only at the rear elevation. And then on the chimneys and exterior flatwork, we're proposing sandstone. Entry door is a combination of wood, open glass. And then the second door reference image is of steel doors that would go on the rear elevation. Window trim, midnight oil, Benjamin Moore. And then our exterior sconce spec is an LED dark sky compliant sconce.
And you have all the details?
Yes.
Correct.
You have some of the roof details? Eve?
Yeah, I think we have, we have Eve details.
There.
Where's that tapered Eve?
Balcony details too.
And then the other side.
Yeah, maybe I'm not seeing the whole set.
Is it on?
Only that one page of details.
6.03
Only
shows
one page of details.
So, no balcony details?
It's detail 3. It's the typical roof to wall connection. It shows the detail of the eave.
But how about balcony?
Balcony detail.
Chimney cap.
Yeah.
Yeah, we may be missing those, yes.
Okay, what about, you have any gate details?
The
Gate details, yes, that's on sheet, I think it's the 5th PDF page.
Page 5. No.
Yeah,
Okay.
page 4, there we go. So we're proposing plaster columns, wood gate, and very simple streamlined design.
And so you are showing 2 light fixtures on the left and the right?
Correct.
What are both?
Those are the light fixtures pictured on our material board on the last page of this PDF set.
I see.
Circle lighting.
It's also mounted on the wall somewhere too.
Correct.
And any landscape lighting and landscape?
Oh, Mr. Chair, I would like to go back and look at the landscape plan, by the way. I mean, we seem to, I get that everybody wants to move this forward, but I would like to see the landscape plan. I don't, oh, this is it?
That's the irrigation.
Oh, that's the irrigation plan.
Yeah, please go through the landscape.
And I get that everything is moved and changed, but you know, I'd just like to know, get an understanding of what the landscape plan is, you know, at this
So
point.
the streetscape, as you might remember, is represented by some large oaks and sycamores. So we're just doing a simple ground plane under there of Westringia and Agave attenuatus and Salvia, point south spreader. Then moving inside the property line, we have a hedge of the Prunus lioni, which turns the corner at the upper northeast until it meets the safety wall. And then from that point goes on along the property line as a continuous screen of Prunus line, or of the Florus nobilis. And the same hedge is along the southern property line. So the entire edge of the property that's not bordering the creek is has consistent screening. Inside that safety wall, we've added some olive trees and a new oak tree. And at the motor court, we have a mixed planting of Mediterranean style plants with olives along the front of the house mixed in with the, what are they? Arbutus unidos. Then we have some Arbutus marinas, some more olives in the back. We have a small marathon lawn in the back, and then just typical ornamental planting along either side of the property. And then we did add from our previous scheme 3 specimen olives along the south side of the building to screen that that elevation from the neighbor. So that's it. Then also the irrigation plan, we've also met our model calculation.
I don't care about irrigation.
And-
I hate irrigation plans.
Well, somebody's got to
The
care
other
about
landscape
them.
architects on the clock.
Somebody's gotta
No,
do
I
it.
just hate irrigation plans. It's my thing.
Also, there's a little rose garden off the top of the,
Yeah, no, I just wanted to get a handle on it, and you know, and then Mr. Chair, if I may just ask a couple of questions about the plan.
Yeah, first, let me ask, are you done with your presentation?
yes.
Okay, great.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Claire.
What is the height of the safety wall?
I believe it's 6 feet. I failed this test last time I presented. So Daryl, how
It's
tall is
3
it?
feet.
Sorry, guys, it's 3 feet.
It's 3 feet. That's
Eric,
that's
you-
better,
you-
Daryl. I would have, at 6 feet, I might have balked, but 3 feet
No,
is
it's-
fine.
No, it's
And
3
then
feet.
I hadn't had a chance to look through all of the plans, but we did have a letter from a neighbor. And so far, I don't see that there was a drainage plan. So the neighbor, you know, was the neighbor to, I think it's the north, was concerned as to how any water was going to be directed around the safety wall, so such that it wasn't going to come on. Yeah, there's the letter. Is there a follow-up visit? Okay, regarding the gabion walls, is there assurance of floodwater is not directed into other residents based on the slope and the elevation study? So that's kind of, I mean, that's where I'm coming from, was we got this letter. So can somebody tell me, can Derek tell me what's going on with that?
Derek, do you want to do that or you want me to do that?
Go for it.
So we're maintaining historical drainage on this parcel. And the core, the floodway on this parcel, I think if you go to the first couple of PDFs, you get a sense of where the floodway is relative to, sorry to make you jump around, relative to what's going on. We have a civil engineer working with us right now from Ashley and Vance, working through the flood control no rise study. But all of the drainage on this property drained through the front yard and the rear yard. If you'll recall, post flood, that this house was one of the only remaining houses there. And it's because the floodway, there's a dark line on this plan at the front, and that is the floodway line, the regulatory floodway line. It's also where the core drainage from above migrates. So we're preserving that. We're not directing any offsite water. Let's say southerly. The letter is from the southerly neighbor. And what's interesting is that we're all going to be dealing with sort of the same issues, which is most of these parcels have to come up 4 feet and still comply with the no rise study. So the southerly house will be doing the same thing. So the drainage that migrated through the back of the property will continue to do so. The drainage that will migrate through the front will continue to do so. And that is the historical drainage for the site. And it's what Ashley and Vance is affirming relative to the plan.
Thank you. That was Gary, that was a great explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Are you done with your questions?
I think so.
All right,
Oh, I had one other question.
please.
What is the paving material for the motor court?
I believe it's chip seal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big paving area there, and I see it's the
It's
term. You think
asphalt
it's
chip.
asphalt and chip? And
Correct.
is that a gray? Is that
Correct.
the standard gray chip
It's
seal?
gray tones, not gold tones. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Claire. John?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Bill, on PDF page number 9, please. Nine.
Yeah, I got it. Roof?
No, PDF plan 9, it's A3.11.
That might be on the garage set you're referring to.
Okay, I'm looking at the garage set. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Can you go to that one?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Megan.
What are those blotches?
Those are the trees.
Okay, so down at the bottom of that page, no, right there, right in the middle. So when I was on the site today, I didn't know how high it was. I didn't get on the site, but maybe there was a orange tag, which I assume is the new flood control or the new grading point.
Correct.
But when I look at this elevation, it does not disclose the fact that there is a fairly steep drop off from the left-hand side of that elevation down to the property line. Am I reading it? Is this drawing incorrect in the sense that it does not show that? Or are you guys retaining all the way up?
Let me go back to the section. Correct. Well, that's a wrong one. The cross section from the other side. So it would be
Site plan?
Sorry, one second. Where's the other elevation? So John, what you're denoting is that the grades on these structures have to be rebuilt, and this grade is coming up in the motor court approximately. It's yeah. I'm sorry. The garage is approximately a foot BFE, AFE, low.
But it has to hit the property line, right? The grade?
Correct. And so one of the issues that we are going to be dealing with and our civil engineer is doing right now is processing that, because we can't fill in all of these areas on the whole parcel. But what I was alluding to is that what happened is post flood, everybody went and put fences in because people were going and taking private things off people's properties and things like that. So that all the fences went up quickly. And so we had conversation with a northerly neighbor that related to construction and restoring their homes and ours as well, that we might have to take these fences down and grade accordingly to preserve the trees and, build up the footprints underneath the foundations underneath these houses. Not knowing what the restoration level was going to be and what we would do with the no rise study, we are going to be using the margins of these lots to shave back grade. The house directly to the south of this house, their grade has to come up 4.5 feet. It actually, I think it's 5. They have to come up 5 feet. Our house is coming up approximately 4.5 feet, and our garage is coming up approximately 4 feet. So there will be a tapering off from this grade to the property line, and we will be filling some of that and probably taking the fence down. We put the fence up on both property lines. We'll be taking that down and then reinstalling it at a higher grade once that grade is determined vis-a-vis the no rise study, all of which will be handled through plan check corrections and review. But it was intended to represent the elevation being level as though we could just fill the grade, but that can't happen. We've got to go back to flood control to reconcile all of that relative to a no-rise study.
Thank you very much, Daryl.
So John, are you done?
With questions, yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Don?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Bill?
Yes, to tag on to John's comments, Daryl, can you drop this garage and leave it at the grade that's there, because you could do flow through vents and that kind of a thing, and then not be hassling with the raising of the garage? Is there a need to raise the garage, or would flood control allow you to do a flow through?
Well, we already are. As I said, we're minus, I think, a foot there. And so the garage is relative to the motor court, which is, you know, a mid break to the house. So we've got two small sets of steps going up to the house to the motor court. And that's why we put the garage at a lower elevation below AFE with floodgate. So we're already doing that. So we feel like we're moderating the differences.
Okay. Then the other
It's 8
question.
inches below the AFE, just to clarify.
8 inches below the AFE.
Yeah, yeah, which shows here on the section. The other question I had is, so this light fixture shows a very tall, long lamp, and it's a 6 foot proportionately. You had said that that was the same fixture on the house. I don't think you're going to be using the same fixture on the house, are you?
It comes in 2 different sizes. There's a small and a large. So we use the larger fixture for the exterior areas, and then the smaller. We can clarify
on the house.
that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just, the dimension here shows that size, and it showed different on your exterior elevation.
Thank you.
And then you do not have details for the railing or the brackets.
No.
Or the columns here. So those you're going to come back then and find and show those details. Okay. Okay, that was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Sam?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Tip. Trying to understand a couple of things about the gabion wall and your little courtyard wall. Is that courtyard wall in relation to the gabion wall kind of terraced above it? Or is the gabion wall kind of freestanding, or is gabion wall a terrace with fill behind it?
Yeah, so the gabion wall, if you went out on site, the gabion wall will essentially be at grade now. And the idea of that is to preserve the existing trees outboard of the gabion wall and leave that grade. And then it also is to bolster the yard grade as it approaches the north side of the house.
Your new fill level.
The new fill, and that's it's a 3 foot gabion. It's not, you know, it does 2 things. One is it's a basis for a grade change in an abrupt manner that allows us to fill out to the existing trees, and then secondly, it would route any kind of future floodwaters to go around the parcel towards the normal historical flow lines. The small wall that we have at the motor court is intended just as a formality of that, but as it goes around to the west towards the house, it's retaining. So as it comes around, it's retaining. So it's doing both.
So it looks like, yeah, the front of the gabion and the front of your curve of the northeast wall kind of are on top of each other. So there's kind of
that's right.
A double grade of 6 foot of wall there of 2 different materials.
Correct.
Okay, just wondered how that's going to get handled. And then to pick up on what John was saying, the south side of the garage on site today looked tall in its flat elevation, and I understand you moved it away from the property line 5 feet. But in part of your discussion, Daryl, you're talking about the other lot below having to take their grade up. So you might, depending on timing of the construction of that site, or if it gets built, you're going to have to taper down to that lower grade with a slope, right? And then at some point it might come up and be level back there or closer
Correct.
to level.
That's kind of what we envisioned. I mean, that was the prior relationship, is that these parcels were level to each other, but there was also a masonry wall along the property line that separated several feet of grade at that property line. But they had portions along the property line that were level, and they had a section between the main house and the garage that was a small retaining wall that broke grade. So yes, we're going to have to be dealing with property line grade.
Could you do a 2-to-1 fill and not have to put a wall
Absolutely.
in to get down to that grade, and then they'd come back up? You might have a little V section or in the temporary time frame.
Yes, that's presumptively what we would do until we coordinated between neighbors.
I'm just trying to understand. And then when I look at the motor court hammerhead configuration on maybe A 1.1, it looks to me like just the way the kind of horizontal curve of the driveway and the way the motor court hammerhead works, it doesn't really work for the tolerances in terms of alignment. Is that something that that all meets all the fire department in there?
Yes, the fire department conceptually approved these plans.
Okay.
We can study that with them.
Just looks like the center line of your spur hits one of your columns as opposed to allowing.
No, it absolutely does, but we have reviewed it with fire department, so it may need to be shifted over.
Okay.
Sam, to address your first part of your question, we have pretty consistent screening in front of both of those walls that ranges between 3 foot to 5.5 feet or more. So you'll probably never see either of them.
So your landscape plan spills over and gets a height that kind of hides that kind of 2 material transition of 6 feet high or something?
Exactly.
Okay. No, I think the landscape plan looks fine. I'm looking at more or less the grades and the drainage and transitions back of the wall. And then Derek, you could kind of take into account the tall facade or elevation of that south side of the garage. It looks to me like you've taken care of some screening for the main house. You've got Arbutus Marina and something on the corner. And then I guess you're doing some good sized screening of the back of the garage. You said that's a Laurus nobilis hedge?
Right.
Okay, so it won't appear as tall, even if that grade stays low. You'll let that hedge get up pretty tall.
Yeah.
Trying to screen and break up that back wall a little bit in terms of a visual from the neighbor looking at it.
Okay.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Dave?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to start with what Sam was just saying. It looked like on the two things that are different about the architecture site plan and this site plan. One is the south side of that garage. It looks like there's trees on the other site plan, and there aren't here. And then it also looks like there's a gap between the two, the safety wall and the courtyard wall on the landscape plan, where there's opportunity to landscape between the two. And then on your plan, they're kissing. So I wanted to clarify which is correct.
The site plan in the architectural sheets is correct. Just because this is based on our discussions with flood control, we had to move that gabion wall out of the regulatory floodway for safety purposes. And our intention is to install mature trees on the south side of the garage. It just didn't get, yeah, in addition to the hedge, it just didn't get picked up on the landscape plans.
Great, okay. I have a question for Alex. Our review of the massing of the garage and the ADU, we're only considering the garage, is that correct?
That's correct. You have to kind of look at it with some blinders on with regard to the ADU.
Okay. And
but you certainly have control over where the garage goes and how big the garage is.
Okay, thank you. And then The roof material, is it non-reflective even though it's metal?
Yes.
Okay. And then do you have a detail of the safety wall that shows the material and the
No,
detail?
we do not.
It's on our grading plan,
Yeah. It's not.
Okay.
not in this set.
Those are my questions. Thanks.
Sorry to interrupt one more time. Back onto
Please.
what Dave said, excuse me, Tip, but the gabion wall location and the two different plans he mentioned, is the landscape plan the need to match the architecture plan now, so it needs
Yes,
adjustment?
Yes.
Is that my clarification understanding?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. They all need to match a little better.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
so let's go on to public comments, and I believe we have some letters.
We have one letter.
And I believe there's also someone maybe on the line.
I'm on the
wanting to
line.
speak.
Kim Canton's on the line.
Okay, let's go through the letter first. Bill.
There it is.
All right, here we go. From 319 Hot Springs. And concern the privacy due to the proposed ADU to be built on top of the detached garage that will be overlooking 319 Hot Springs. I'd like to review the landscape plan to see if there will be screening trees between the ADU and the shared property line. I would like to know the tree size, location, species. Okay, and this is from the neighbor next door.
Hi, this is Kelly Weimer.
And okay, are you with what property?
319 Hot Springs Road.
Oh, the same letter.
Same
I just
neighbor.
read?
Yeah.
I'm the neighbor. I'm their daughter.
Southern side.
The southern
Yes,
side.
please. Yes. I'll go ahead, Ms. Wyman.
I just have a couple questions. Are they going to replace the new story poles showing the new location of where the structures will be?
Okay, that's a good question for the board. We'll decide on that. And the next question.
What's the setback between the
ADU.
for the ADU garage that's going between 319 and 321? How many feet from the property line?
Daryl, can you help me with that question?
Yeah.
The setback is 10 feet on both property lines.
Okay. And then do you know this species?
Page 3 of the PDF.
Oh, page 3 of the PDF. What about the trees?
Yeah.
The trees, how tall are the trees going to be, or what's the species?
The trees are proposed to be in that location, 18 to 20 feet, field-grown olives.
Okay. And it'll be all along the garage, correct?
Correct. There's 2 trees not shown on the landscape plan that are
Okay.
proposed to go between the garage and your property.
Okay, good.
Daryl, you might want to clarify. I think the setback is 10 feet, but aren't you proposing that the garage structure is further than 10 feet away from the property?
Right. We've proposed to be 15 feet, allowing for these trees and the hedge to go between the property, build some privacy.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Wait, Jessica, are you done with your comment?
He's ready to jump in here.
Ms. Wyman, are you done with your comments?
I have one more question. My husband's gonna.
The
talk.
backflow behind the house from 321. We didn't really, who did we talk to on flood control about that?
Well, the appropriate people is probably John Fry or Tom Fayram. Those would be the people I would reach out to at flood control.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
we'll talk to you about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, please.
this is an extremely unusual thing. May I ask a question of Clayton and her husband, please?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
If Mr. Becker and the owners of this property approached you to grade onto your property so that he would have a flat, finished site would you be willing to discuss that with him?
Well, we love Joe Becker.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely, we'd be willing to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, so do we have any other?
I do not show any other letters.
Yes,
Wait,
there's Kim Canton
Kim Canton.
and also Holiday McManigal on the line. Yes,
Okay,
so both
so-
Holiday and I are to the north of this parcel. And I'll speak to 335 Hot Springs. I think this looks really good. I actually liked it before, but I actually, when you talked about moving it back to almost its original position, and why, that makes good sense. And I know that I'm going to have to bring my elevation up, I believe, as well. So I know, Daryl, you guys do great work, and it looks like it's going to be a very attractive and functional build. So from my vantage point from the north of 335 Hot Springs, I think it looks really good.
Thank you. And we have one more.
Thank you.
This is Holiday McManigal. I am at 333 Hot Springs to the north and to the left on the site plan.
Bill, can we see that?
Right.
Well, I have this aerial. Is that what you're
Yep,
saying?
yep.
To the
Sort of buried in the trees there.
in here.
Right there.
Yes. So my question is regarding the backyard. Historically, the flow went to, on this picture, to the left side of our house on just a normal rain, and then came down through the Grokenberger's property, and on a decent rain, there was like a little creek for the day. My question is that backyard area elevating at all, or is it staying?
So Holiday, that is elevating and then being maintained as a historical flow line.
Okay.
It's intended to be restored as was, and I know that down below the Weimers are probably concerned about that. Unfortunately, we're not. It's not of our power to adjust that. We have to maintain the historical drainage. So the intention here, we actually pulled the rear patio up. It's less large than it was prior. So that leaves the backyard being a little bit larger, but the flow line is at the rear of the hill, right at the base of the hill.
And then one of my favorite things was my kitchen and back side of the house view was over the hedge. And so I had a borrowed view that went clear through the Groke's backyard.
Right.
So my question is, I know I see on the plans that you're hedging that property line, and my request would be, at least on that back side of the lot, that it's not a hugely high hedge, because then I still have that view.
I'm sure we can work out maintaining that at a reasonable height.
And the story poles looked good to me, and the new elevation and plans look good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have anyone else? Bill?
I don't see anybody. That looks like it.
Tip, do you want to make it clear to the last public commenter that the story poles aren't accurate to the actual location?
Yes, that's one of the questions.
Yeah.
I want to bring back to the board. Okay, let me close the public comments for item number 8. And let's go back to the board now. And this item is here for preliminary / final approval. And one of the questions I have for the board is that the story poles that we saw today is not really a reflection of the submitted plan, as the house has been shifted, same as the garage, by, I believe it's at 30 feet, something like that, right now?
Correct. 30 feet.
So let me ask some board members. Let's start with John. Do you feel that we need to re-story pole?
I am extremely sorry to say this, but yes, I do believe that. And I also think that we should not rush this project if the grading stands as much a chance of changing as I think it's going to.
Okay, so let me ask a second. Let's go through each. How about you, Don? Do you think we should restore your pool?
Yes, I do. I think 30 feet is substantial and very hard to imagine where it would be in the view corridor from the neighbors.
All right, so let me ask you the other question. Is any of the board members feel that we don't have to?
Pardon?
Any of the board members feel that we don't have to redo the story poll? Do not have to.
Could we offer a lesser intent story polling? In other words, maybe just the southern face ridge and plate height on the garage and the house, instead of having them have to redo the whole thing.
Well, and here's another thought. Because we had the direct neighbors, it seems like all surrounding this property all chime in. Some of them saying they didn't have any trouble with the story poles as they saw them today, and knowing that the story poles are going to be moved back 30 feet, which goes into the slope and quite a ways out of what I thought was potentially a problem from Olive Mill. And looking at this house with the story poles further back, it lessens its impact to at least the public. Would a simpler plan, move back, be enough for the neighbors to get the right impression and enough for to, you know, absorb this difference? That's my question.
My concern is, you know, because we have a house, then we have a garage, and if we put story poles, we don't do enough, then I'm not sure what would that accomplish. If we just show the ridge or two ridges, then it could be misleading. So Claire, you have an opinion?
Yeah,
on
I
this?
do. I do think, and I think for me, I can trust Mr. Becker to actually figure out which story poles and how to, so that they best describe the project, you know. I mean, maybe it doesn't have, because I mean, all of us are clear that story poles cost the applicant a lot of money.
Right.
So however Mr. Becker wants to come up with a story pole plan that may be less than what we saw on site today, that would, you know, I still think the story poles have to happen, because ultimately that we're maybe going to do preliminary. We're not going to give this final. And so we are going to story pole this again. And it's a very visual site for the neighbors. I mean, for the whole community. I mean, everybody in the community drives by it every day. I think we have to be really careful with what we're doing with this project. And so I do think the story poles need to be there. I don't know whether it's absolutely necessary to be as complex as they were. And maybe the architects can decide that, but that's where I'm at about it.
Hey guys, I don't know. I know you said you closed public comment. This is Kim Canton. I'm trying to track the logic here, and
Kim, let us finish the story post issue.
Okay, but I want to bring something up about that.
Okay,
based on
can
how
we
I'm
finish what we do? Let us finish what we are middle discussion right here. Story post. So what I'm thinking is that perhaps
Tip, I'd like to weigh in too before
yes.
you make any final decisions.
Right. Dave, you want to go ahead and say something?
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel pretty strongly that we do need the story poles redone because of the visibility of the site, the number of neighbors that are impacted, and also because we're raising the whole house 4.5 feet, you know. So from my perspective, it's unfortunate they weren't accurate the first time, but I would want to see them.
So how about, can I make a suggestion? How about if I can work directly with Daryl, and if he can come back and I can meet with them and agree on the story pole plan for the next meeting? Would it be acceptable to the board?
Yes.
Yes. Fine.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think that that meeting should include Holiday because my sense was she looked across the back of Mr. Darrell's project. And if we're moving it farther back, she's going to be more impacted.
Yes.
Now, maybe I'm
Okay.
wrong. Maybe she was looking front. I don't know. I'm not positive.
This
So
is
it
Holiday.
seemed to me like, obviously the applicant have a very complete set of drawings. So we have a choice of either we can grant them preliminary approval at this point, or we can hold everything off until, Alex, you have a comment on that?
Yes, I would strongly recommend against granting preliminary approval today. If there's any possibility that after the story polls, the structure might get shifted again. Preliminary basically locks the project in terms of siting, size, bulk, and scale, everything else. So if that's still somewhat up in the air, I would suggest continuance fully.
Okay, then with that in mind, can we continue this item after the applicant back with the revised story pool plan?
Tip, can I weigh in real quick?
Just a second, let me finish with the board members first. Do you feel that be the appropriate action at this point?
Yes.
Okay, I think we don't need to take any action at the meeting because we're not voting on anything. Am I right, Alex?
I would just take a motion for continuance.
Okay, before I do that, Darrell, you'd like to make a comment?
Right. First of all, I'd like to clarify the record. I think Holiday McManigal to the north and looking across the rear view has no issue with the house and its placement. Her comment was specifically to ask us to agree to keep the hedge trimmed at a proper height. I believe Kim Canton had nothing but support for the house, its placement, and the height. So we don't have any issues there. With regard to the Weimers, I do agree that we do impact them to the north. The only issue that needs to be fully understood is that, and I know they don't know this yet because they haven't entered the process yet, that their house likely is to come up 5 feet. And if we somehow, as might have been earlier suggested, don't bring our grades up properly, we're going to end up with water in our sites and in our buildings because we're uphill of theirs. So that's why we established these grades, and we think that they're very well thought out. And, you know, we did have a late meeting with flood control and discuss specifically not putting building improvements in the floodway, and that's why we've shifted the house back. So all of that is for very good reason, and there's a very good reason the story poles are where they are and why they were shifted. So I want everybody to realize that. So the first question I think is, and it boils down to two things. What we'd like to see is we'd like to see the board, if they can, give us a preliminary approval subject to the height, because there is no argument about the placement. It's really about the height. And then secondly, it's about understanding the height relative to screening these buildings. And I'm not sure after this meeting whether the Weimers still feel we need to do more improvements in that regard, or whether the board feels that we made enough attempt. We have no problem staking the ridge and maybe to the south, since that's the only concern, and then maybe the front of the building, the front eave of the main residence. But we think we ought to agree to doing the ridge of the garage and the southerly eave and the front of the main ridge of the core house and that eave. And hopefully that would suffice for understanding the bulk and scale of the building. But the siding of the building is unlikely to be able to change, period. I mean, we might be able to move the garage around, but the siding of the building, it's exactly where it was before.
Yeah, thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comments. And I, now back to the board, I believe that based on the comments I got from Alex, I think we probably need to continue this item until, so can I have a motion in that aspect?
Well, I mean, Mr. Chair, I actually, in this case, I'm going to take staff's recommendation.
Yes.
and continue, make a motion for continue to
Motion.
continue the project. You know, I think the house is lovely. I think, you know, I think pretty much the landscaping is going to be lovely, all of that. But we don't even have a plan in front of us that is accurate. So for me, I'm not willing to do anything other than conceptual, you know, further conceptual until we've got a plan that we, you know, and then you and Mr. Becker can work out the story pole thing and we can then move forward.
That's what I said. So would you like to make that motion,
I'll make
Claire?
a motion for continuance.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, under discussion, I want to see a finished grading plan
Yeah, me too.
next time.
Well, they said there's an engineer working on it. We should know how that results.
Yes, we should see that, not just sort of hand wave it out. And are they going to grade onto the north and or the south property line so we don't get V ditches between the two properties? Are we going to get V ditches between the two properties? I think the board should know that.
Well,
And can I ask who would second the motion?
I'll second it.
So we are into further discussion. Anything more,
Yes,
John?
I would like to state that this is a project that affects everyone in the neighborhood who have been through a horrific experience. And I want to push this along as far as rapidly as possible. But I also want to share all of our concerns with the neighbors, listen to the neighbors, and make sure this is adequate and sufficient for everybody.
Okay, any other comments? With that, can I have?
I would like to say too, that I think it's very important for the plans to be accurate and that the landscape and the architectural plans both match and everything's aligned.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? And so the next meeting is completely full. So Daryl, you need to work with staff and see when we can put you back on the agenda.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move for adjournment.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Tim.
you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
Good job.
Bill.
Thanks. Thank you all.
Bye.
Get out of here now.